Good evening. This is Orson Welles. This is your radio almanac. Our astrology department says the moon is in Sagittarius, which controls the hips and thighs. This should be a great night at the Palladium. We've just got time before the show starts for a health hint from our home physician.
There are 2 cures for hiccups. 1, frighten the patient. 2, take his bottle away.
Thank you, Dr. Snake Oil. And now a word for the housewife, Prudence Pratt.
To stop a child from sucking his thumb, apply chocolate syrup to thumb. Then show child that syrup is kept in cupboard. He will then suck around the cupboard.
Welcome, one and all, to the sign of the Flying Red Horse.
Tonight and every week at this same time, over these same stations, the makers of Mobile Gas and Mobile Oil bring you Orson Welles.
Hello? Orson Welles speaking. Oh, darling. Where are you? What? What? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, at what time? Gee. 10:23 this morning. Really? 8.5 pounds. Darling, I'm the happiest man in the world. I'll be home as soon as the program's over. Where's my secretary, Miss Grimmett?
Yes?
Bundle from heaven. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did, Mr. Wells. Does that mean...
Yes, finally got my laundry back. Well, Miss Grimmett, what's the first business for the day?
The man is waiting for you from the reducing salon. And also...
That French Mathieu, will you please tell me, Miss Grimmett, why you hired that man to give me reducing treatments? I don't often repeat it, but it has been said that Wells has a figure to brag about.
Yes, and what Wells brags about, drags about.
Miss Grimmett, in the future, you might be a little more careful about making disparaging remarks. You might find yourself unemployed on your 26th birthday.
Oh, Mr. Wells, do you really think I look 25?
No, but you had a lot of fun for a minute, didn't you? Now, you may return to your typewriter.
Hey, Mr. Wells, I've been trying to tell you.
Yes?
Your guest is waiting.
Oh, have him come in. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mercury Theater presents with pride an old friend and a truly great actor, Mr. Charles Laughton.
Orson, I know I promised to be a guest, but my mind isn't in it.
Oh?
You must help me out with the problem I've got.
Oh, what's the trouble, Charlie?
Well, Orson, you're the one director I know who has a perfect understanding of characters and who can really interpret lines. I'm at my wit's end. Would you tell me what do these lines mean? If the total of your 1943 payments, item 13, section D, paragraph 4, is larger than your fiduciary income, and the earned income credit minus your fiduciary...
Let me see that, Charlie. You may take deductions for depreciation, obsolescence, and amortization of emergency facilities. What does amortization mean?
Who knows, old boy? I gave up on fiduciary.
Control yourself, Charlie. Now, here's something we can all understand. A married person living with husband or wife, if only one return or a joint return is filed, or head of a family, 40% plus 2% for each dependent of line 4, but not more than $1,000. Plus 100% of each dependent. Stick 'em up, Dick Tracy. I got you covered. How does that get in there?
Look what I found, an explanation of amortization.
Oh, really? What does it say?
Amortization is a fiduciary. It's driving me mad. I've been working on it for weeks. I've worn myself down to a shadow.
Yes, but that shadow still covers quite a lot of ground.
Mr. Wells, please. The man is waiting from the reducing salon.
Send him in. I know just where he can start into work.
Bonjour, 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 Monsieur Wells. You are ready for the reducing treatment, huh? Ooh la la, Mr. Wells, you've gained 20 pounds in the hip.
Take your clammy paws off me.
Mon Dieu, I've been talking to the wrong man. I must put on the eyeglasses. Well, there, huh? Good heavens, I did not see the beard.
That's Charles Laughton, and he has no beard.
No beard? Oh, damn this fuzz on my eyeglasses. There. Oh, now I can see your face more clearly. Anybody see where that fuzz went? Well, Mr. Wells, how about the reducing treatment?
Well, frankly, and without mentioning names, there are others around here who need it more.
Now, that isn't fair, Orson, making fun of my shape like that just because you've got a military figure.
Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie. Military figure, eh?
Yes. It breaks ranks when it ought to fall in.
Oh, monsieur, why do you gentlemen argue? Such great Shakespearean actors.
Oh, thank you.
He was looking at me.
I have but to look at you, gentlemen, and I am reminded of those wonderful lines of Shakespeare.
Really?
What line?
Ah, that this too solid flesh should melt.
I won't have you talking this way about my friend, Mr. Laughton.
He was looking at you.
Come, gentlemen, my time is valuable.
All right. What would you charge to give us both treatment?
For you, gentlemen, $70.
Or for you, $10.
That's right, $10.
Yeah.
60.
20.
50.
30.
40.
50.
30.
60.
20.
70.
80.
90.
100.
You drive a hard bargain, monsieur, but I take it.
That was Lud Gluskin and his Court of Missing Hairs playing I'll Get By. And here's John McIntyre to tell you how to get by with your old automobile.
Folks, which one of these motorists are you? Said one, so my car is on the fritz. So what? I'm getting me a brand new buggy any day now. Said the other, pleasant dreams, boy. How you kid yourself. There'll be no new cars on the market for a long, long time. That second motorist is right, folks. Latest predictions are it will be at least 2 years after victory before you can expect a brand new car. My point is you've got to make your old car last. And it can last if you change oil regularly and keep your crankcase filled up full with fresh, clean Mobil oil. These days your speeds are low, your trips are short. Your oil dilutes and dirties faster. That can lead to loss of gasoline, a breakdown, big repair bills. Now, Mobil oil is specially refined to stand up under wartime driving. Good, clean Mobil oil in your crankcase can guard your engine against wear, add miles to the life of your car. Keep that precious buggy rolling. Drive in often at the sign of the Flying Red Horse. Ask for the world's largest selling motor oil, Mobil oil.
Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you now an unexpurgated biography, The Private Life of Charles Laughton. Charles Laughton first saw light of day in a little suburb in London. The date was September 12th in a year which I find has been crossed out of my script. The birth certificate bore the following interesting legend. Born this day, Charles Laughton, blue eyes, brown hair, weight 14.5 pounds. Parents, 2. Picture, if you can, that stirring moment before the arrival of little Charlie. The cute little 14.5-pound bundle. If you listen, you can almost hear the stork on that historic flight. We see in our mind's eye the first meeting of mother and child. The mother looks down at little Charlie. father speaks.
I know just how you feel, Mother.
Oh, no, I'm sorry I screamed. He is beautiful, isn't he?
Frankly, dear, he looks like the third item on a scavenger hunt.
Look at him. He's trying to talk. Isn't that cute?
There goes my swoon club.
You know, we're rather lucky he was born today. Just think, in 6 short months from now, on March 15th, we can list him as part of our fiduciary income.
Years pass, and we find Charles Laughton as a bouncing boy of 8. We see him now at play in his backyard. A little friend approaches.
Hello, Tubby. What you got?
Don't call me Tubby, Chubby.
Sorry, Fatso. What you got?
Bar of chocolate. Want a piece?
Yes.
Too late. I got it in my mouth.
Stingy.
Don't call me stingy. Anybody calls me stingy's got to fight. You want to fight? You want to fight?
Yeah, I want to fight.
All right, take your coat off.
There, I got my coat off.
It's much cooler that way, isn't it?
Now, come on with me. I got an idea. Let's play with the girls.
I don't want to.
How old are you?
I don't know whether I'm 7 or 8.
Do you like kissing girls?
No.
You're 7.
I know what. Let's go down to the theater and watch the acting.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. An actor.
You should live so long.
Little Charles progressed rapidly, and at the age of 14 was an accomplished thespian. Who will ever forget his immortal characterization in that stirring drama, The Way of the Wanderer, the role of Touché, the courageous Sikh? Who can forget that scene? The brave Touché standing guard outside. Colonel Ruffton of the Fusiliers speaks. Men, there is one among us who may yet save the day. I speak of Touché, who stands there, just beyond the door. Men, I have seen Touché in battle against hopeless odds, fighting tooth and nail and emerging always victorious. I have seen Touché go for days without food and water. Gentlemen, your blood will run cold when he tells you the things he has seen. Let him tell you now. Touché, the courageous one. Enter. Yes, who will ever forget Charles Laughton as Touché? He was so magnificent as Touché that from that day forward, Charles Laughton was never out of the theater. 1916.
Here you are, folks. Get your peanuts, popcorn, crackers there.
1918.
Tickets, please.
1919.
Get your chocolate bars, folks. In each and every bar, you're going to find a solid gold 14 watch, jeweled watch. The price is only 10 cents, and you can take it off your fiduciary income.
He doesn't blow up on fiduciary. And now Charles Laughton was a man. It was at this point in his career that he created the memorable Jacques Bibot in The Desert Rat. Who will ever forget him alone on the boundless Sahara? His eyes blinded by the sun and sand, his tongue parched, his mind crazed. Who can ever forget that moment as he stumbled upon a glistening object in the sand? Can it be? Yes, it is. A canteen. Feverishly, he puts the canteen to his lips, and... Who will ever forget Charles Laughton as Jacques Bibot?
You know, Orson, it just occurred to me that for a sketch depicting the story of my life, I'm in it pretty seldom.
Wait, Charlie. Your big scene comes now. Who among us does not remember that stirring moment in Mutiny on the Bounty? Really? The hate-drug Captain Bligh, stalking the deck above, the men plotting below. As sure as my name is Christian, men, I tell you that our manhood gives us only one recourse. Would you be slaved, chained, spat upon, flogged by a madman? I say to you this, comrades, there is but one thing for us to do. A dark night, a sudden push, a splash.
Mr. Christian, sir, he's coming.
Let him come, I fear him not.
He's here, Mr. Christian. He's at the door.
Let him enter. We shall see now who is to be master of the ship. What a scene that was.
Caesar. Who will ever forget Orson Welles as Mr. Christian?
Then for Charles Laughton, triumph mounted upon triumph.
When do I get to play my big scene?
Right now. Finally, at the peak of his career, Charles Laughton was awarded a coveted assignment on that radio program which is every intellectual's ambition. Mr. Fadiman speaks.
Gentlemen, here is a question submitted by Mr. O. Wells of Beverly Hills, California. The question is, what is a fiduciary? Mr. Laughton has his hand up. Good heavens, there's a gun in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a little while, Charles Laughton is coming back to the microphone. Seriously, we're going to do a scene together from Shakespeare. This being the Ides of March, your radio almanac brings you now a scene from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, with Charles Laughton as Cassius and your obedient servant as Brutus. This is the famous quarrel scene.
The wars which followed the assassination of Caesar have not yet turned against Brutus and Cassius. But things are not well for them, and their disagreements have almost ended their old friendship. It is dusk. Cassius has come to Brutus's camp for conference, and now, wild with rage, he strides into Brutus's tent.
That you have wronged me doth appear in this. You have condemned and noted Lucius Pella for taking bribes here of the Sardians, wherein my letters playing on his side because I knew the man was slighted off.
You wronged yourself to write in such a case.
In such a time as this, it is not meet that every nice offense should bear his comment.
Let me tell you, Cassius, you yourself are much condemned to have an itching palm, to sell and march your offices for gold to undeservers.
I, an itching palm? You know that you are Brutus that speak this, or by the gods this speech, or else you're laughed.
The name of Cassius honors this corruption, and chastisement does ever hide his head.
Chastisement?
Remember March. The Ides of March. Remember? Did not great Julius bleed for justice' sake? What villain touched his body that did stab and not for justice? What shall one of us that struck the foremost man of all this world, but for supporting robbers? Shall we now contaminate our fingers with base bribes and sell the mighty space of our large honors for so much trash as may be grasped thus? I'd rather be a dog and bay the moon than such a Roman.
Brutus, bay not me. I'll not endure it. You forget yourself to hedge me in. I am a soldier, I, older in practice, abler than yourself to make conditions.
So, too, you are not, Cassius.
I am.
I say you are not.
Urge me no more. I shall forget myself. Have mind upon your health. Tempt me no further.
Away, slight man.
Oh, gods, ye gods. Must I endure all this?
All this, I more. Fret, you proud heart break. Must I observe you? Must I stand and crouch under your testy humor? By the gods, you shall digest the venom of your spleen, though it do split you. For from this day forth, I'll use you for my mirth, yea, for my laughter when you are waspish.
Is it come to this?
You say you're a better soldier. Let it appear so. Make your vaunting true, and it shall please me well. For mine own part, I shall be glad to learn of noble men.
You wrong me every way. You wrong me, Brutus. I said an elder soldier, not a better. Did I say better?
Yet I cannot.
When Caesar lived, he durst not thus have moved me.
Peace, you durst not so have tempted him.
I durst not.
No.
What durst not tempt him?
Well, your life you durst not.
Do not presume too much upon my love. I may do that I shall be sorry for.
You have done that you should be sorry for. There is no terror, Cassius, in your threats. For I am armed so strong in honesty that they pass me by as the idle wind which I respect not. I did send to you for certain sums of gold which you denied me. For I can raise no money by vile means. By heaven, I'd rather coin my heart and drop my blood for drachmas than to wring from the hard hands of peasants their vile trash by any indirection. I did send to you for gold to pay my legions, which you denied me. Was that done like Cassius? Should I have answered Caius Cassius, though?
I denied you not.
You did?
I did not. He was but a fool that brought my answer back. Brutus hath rived my heart. A friend should bear his friend's infirmities. But Brutus makes mine greater than they are.
I do not till you practice them on me.
You love me not.
I do not like your faults.
A friendly eye could never see such faults.
Flatterers would not.
Come, Antony and young Octavius, come. Revenge yourselves alone on Cassius. For Cassius is aweary of the world, hated by one he loves, braved by his brother, checked like a bondman, all his faults observed, set in a notebook, learned, and conned by rote to cast into my teeth. Oh, I could weep my spirit from mine eyes. There is my dagger. Here my naked breast, I that denied thee gold, will give my heart. Strike as thou didst at Caesar, for I know when thou didst hate him worst, thou loved him better than ever thou loved Cassius.
Sheathe your dagger. Be angry when you will, it shall have scope. Do what you will. Dishonor shall be Cuba.
Hath Cassius lived to be but mirth and laughter to his Brutus, when grief and blood ill-tempered vexes him?
When I said that, I was ill-tempered, too.
Do you confess so much? Give me your hand.
And my heart, too.
Oh, Brutus.
What's the matter?
Have you not loved enough to bear with me when that rash humor which my mother gave me makes me forgetful?
Yes, Cassius. And from henceforth, when you are over-earnest with your Brutus, you'll think your mother chides and leave you there.
I did not think you could have been so angry, oh, my dear brother. This was an ill beginning of the night. Never come such division between our souls, let it not, Brutus.
Everything is well.
Good night, my lord.
Good night, good brother. Some say coupon, some say coupon. But whatever they call that precious piece of paper in their gas ration book, the smartest motorists of all say mobile gas. When you redeem your coupon for this proven gasoline, you get the miles. And now with the new OPA order reducing even more the supply of available gasoline, it's more important than ever that motorists turn to mobile gas. Mobile gas in 1944 is giving all the miles it gave in peacetime. Now, that's a powerful statement. You get every wartime mile it's possible to give you when you get mobile gas. City drivers, country drivers praise this gasoline and pass their coupons. Salesmen, war plant workers all say mobile gas for mine. How about you? Why not change today to America's favorite gasoline? There's a friendly fellow waiting to pump it in your tank, your mobile gas dealer. You'll find him at the sign of the Flying Red Horse. Drive in soon. Because these days you want miles, and that means you want mobile gas. Thank you, John McIntyre. Time to say goodnight now, everybody. Please join us again next Wednesday. Until then, my sponsors, the makers of mobile gas and mobile oil, and all of us in the Mercury Theater, remain as always obediently yours. Makers of mobile gas and mobile oil invite you to listen in next week. Same time, same station, to your Radio Almanac. Mr. Wells' guest is Betty Hutton. John McIntyre speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
is enough. Enough is enough.
Look, they want me to play Love and
No,
Bloom.
they don't want you. They want you not to play Love and Bloom. Mr. Benny killed vaudeville. Today, the murderer returns to the scene of his crime. I have the ad right here in the paper, Mr. Benny. It says the biggest show in town, 14 days only, due to Mr. Benny's prior commitments. You have to put it in there. You're going back with the good humor people. I mean, you have to put... It says... It says the biggest show in New York,
Yeah?
you will die laughing.
Yeah?
Now, the show is over, and I'm still alive. I would like to have my money back. I would like to have my money back. I
Look,
paid
Fred,
80
I'm
cents.
sorry. You paid 80
80
cents. If you
cents.
want your money back, you'll have to go to the box office.
They
I'm
told
sorry.
me at the box office you're taking it out after every show. They told me I should come to you direct.
Now, wait a minute. 80 cents. The show cost 80 cents.
80 cents
Now, look
to
what
get
you
in.
got for 80 cents. You got the Sportsman Quartet, Marjorie Reynolds, Rochester, Phil Harris, and myself. Now, you did like the Sportsman Quartet.
Very good, very good.
Is that worth 15 cents?
15 cents of anybody's money. 4 for 15
That's
is
right.
good.
Okay.
4 for 15.
Marjorie Reynolds, is that worth a quarter, Marjorie Reynolds?
Let me see. You drive a hard bargain. A quarter. Yes,
That's 40 cents.
40 cents. I'll give in 40 cents.
All right, 40 cents.
40 cents.
All right, that's 40 cents. Now, Phil. Now, Rochester.
Rochester, very good.
That's
Excellent.
certainly worth 20 cents, isn't it?
Yes, 20 cents.
That's 60 cents.
60 cents.
All right. Now, Phil Harris is worth a dime. Is that right?
8 cents.
All right.
8 cents.
All right. That's 68 cents. That leaves you 12 cents.
12 cents. I would like to have 12 cents.
Good. And remember, this is my last quarter that I got with me. I didn't get paid yet. I got to have dinner. I got to have a sandwich. I got to have
That's right.
something to eat.
You're in here all
I got
day.
it. I'm going to be here all day. I haven't even got money to ride home. Not even on the
Tonight?
bus. Nothing.
Can't
Nothing.
go home tonight? Well, how are you going to get home? With your
I don't
legs will
know.
give away about 9 o'clock. You'll never be able to
That's
walk
it.
it.
Well, if you could just let me have a dime so I could get back on the
For
bus.
the bus?
That's right.
Now, on Sunday morning here at the town hall, the Hay Fever Guild will meet for pollen drill.
Mr.
And there-
Allen! Mr.
Now, quiet.
Allen!
The acoustics bruise easily here. I may have to dab some minute rub on the walls if the acoustics sort of...
Hello?
Well, sir, they laughed when I said the magician's hair was coming out. They didn't know I was going to pull his rabbit out of the hat. If it isn't, well, you have to make faces with a joke like that. A poor old joke like that, you drag it out, you have to help it as much as you can. What I really should do is hide that monkey on me and let it out on rare occasions. Well, if it isn't, what's her name?
Yes, Mama sent me out to get a golf club.
Well, don't tell me your mother's taking up that rollicking game of meadow badminton.
No, but our baby swallowed a golf ball.
A golf ball, and your mother is...
Mama's going to spank it with a niblick.
Well, you'd better get right home and caddy for your mother. The baby might turn out to be a tough course, you know.
Hello, Portland.
Pardon me, but I never speak to strange men at microphones.
Portland, this is Andre Baruch. Andre's taking Harry Von Zell's place, remember?
Oh, yes. Hello, Andre. Gosh, you were swell last week.
Yes.
Thank you, Portland. Hello, fans.
Hello, Peter.
Optimist in the plural, yes. Not Stuff Van Steeden.
It isn't Benny Goodman.
Well, you could be with the top of your head going into that big apple.
Be careful. You know what you got from Jack Benny Sunday night.
And did I laugh when Jack beat Mr. Allen up on his program.
Say, I nearly passed out when Fred started crying.
Yeah? When I started crying, dubbed in a cry for me. How did Benny beat me up? In effigy. And at that, he had to make me a little boy in his sketch before he could do it.
You can't take it even as a kid.
Well, Benny'd better not start anything with me, or Jell-O's going to have 8 delicious flavors.
What 8, Fred?
What?
I said, what 8?
Well, I'll just strawberry, raspberry, cherry, orange, lemon, lime, and black and blue.
You shouldn't fight with Jack now. He's pretty weak going on that
He's
diet.
always weak.
Say, I wonder why Paramount made Jack cut down on his food.
Well, he's making the picture for his room and board. And Paramount caught him overdoing the latter. Why, they tell me a waiter walked into the commissary one day with 15 meatballs, and Benny ran pool before the waiter could set down the plate.
Benny's better in pictures than you are for my money.
Oh, yes? Who won the Academy Award last year?
Spencer Tracy.
And I know Spencer Tracy better than Benny does.
So what does that prove?
It proves that if Benny keeps making pictures, he's going to make fresh air fiends out of a lot of theater goers.
You can say what you want, but I thought Jack was swell as Tom Sawyer Sunday.
Tom Sawyer. He played the part like one of the Finn boys.
Huckleberry?
No, Mickey. Beating me up as a kid. Why, I could have met him in a day nursery and licked him with open safety pins at 10 paces.
Now, look, kids, I've made up my mind. If Alan doesn't get here for rehearsal in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to cancel him. I wonder where he can be. He hasn't any friends out here. Maybe, I don't know.
Will it be anything else, Mr. Allen?
Yes, waiter. I'll have another cup of coffee.
You know, Mr. Allen, before I took this job here at the Brown Derby, I was a waiter at Lendy's.
Really?
Now, how are things back in New York?
Well, they're about the same, except we have a water shortage, you know.
Oh, yeah, I've been reading about that. Did it affect you personally?
Well, it didn't bother me much at first, but after several weeks, something told me to take a bath.
See, that reminds me, Mr. Allen, aren't you supposed to be on Jack Benny's program today?
And how I hate it.
Well, this is none of my business, but how much is Benny going to pay you?
Well, I don't know yet, but my lawyer filed suit against him 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wait a minute. You ain't even been on his program yet, and you started suing him 2 weeks ago?
My friend, when you deal with Benny, it's always best to get a running start.
You mean he's really that cheap?
Cheap? Why, Benny is so tight that last summer when he was out on a dude ranch, he kept his money in a wildcat's mouth. And he was snide enough to find a wildcat with tonsillitis so it couldn't swallow. Well, I'd better get going. I have to go to that old man's rehearsal over there. Say, which network is he lousing up now?
Oh, he's at CBS. It's just 2 blocks from here.
Say, on second thought, you know, I think I'll let him stew a little while. Bring me another cup of coffee. See, I can't understand what's keeping Fred.
Oh, Jack, take it easy. He'll be here any minute.
Well, when we go to court, I'm certainly going to bring up about him being late. Oh, Rochester, will you run out and see if you can find Mr. Allen? Maybe he's at Lyman's or at the Derby. Somewhere.
Yes, sir.
See, that Allen is certainly a thoughtless guy. He's been doing things like this to me since the first day I met him.
Jack, I've been with you for so many years, and I never knew how you first met Fred Allen.
Oh, it happened in Boston a long time ago.
Well, tell me about it, Jack.
All right, Don. It was many, many years ago when vaudeville was at its height. I was the headliner at the Metropolitan Theater in Boston. One night after the supper show, I was sitting in my dressing room resting from my 7 encores. I was removing my makeup. Come in.
Mr. Benny?
Yes?
Mr. Benny, my name is Fred Allen.
Uh-huh.
I'm appearing here at the Metropolitan.
Well, that's funny. I don't remember any Fred Allen on this bill.
I'm in the opening act.
Oh, I thought the opening act was Fink's Mule.
I took my makeup off, Mr.
Oh, so you're with Fink's Mule?
Uh-huh. May I sit down?
Yes, but not too close. Now, what can I do for you, young man?
Tell me, Mr. Benny, what do you think of this new entertainment medium that's just starting up, this thing called radio?
Well, I've been giving it a lot of thought. In fact, I already have an idea for a radio program.
You have?
Yes. On my program each week, I'll visit a place called Benny's Boulevard, where I'll start knocking on doors and ask topical questions of 4 people.
4 people?
Yes, a Southern senator, a rube who says howdy, bub, a Bronx housewife, and an Irishman.
Gosh, what a novel idea for radio. You know, that might even replace the street singer.
Yes. You'll have to excuse me now, Alan. I've got to get dressed for dinner.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Benny, and thank you so much, sir, for your help. I will always treasure the memory of this meeting the greatest comedian in the world, sir. I'm backing out, sir.
Thank you. And that, Don, is how I first met Fred Allen, and why I dislike him so much.
Jack, you mean...
Yes, he stole my radio idea and called it Allen's Alley. Gee, I wonder if Rochester has found him yet.
Say, waiter, I'll have another cup.
Oh, there you are, Mr. Allen. I've been looking all over for you.
Oh, hello, Rochester. Say, I was just getting ready to go over to the studio.
Well, let's hurry, Mr. Benny's awful upset. Come on, I'll show you the shortcut to CBS.
Sure. After all these years, Rochester, you'd think Benny would change. But he's just as bad as when I first met him in Boston many years ago.
I never did hear about how you two first met. Would you tell me about it, Mr. Allen?
I was headlining at the Metropolitan Theater in Boston. And one evening after the supper show, I was sitting in my dressing room removing my makeup. Come in.
Mr. Allen?
Yes?
My name is Jack Benny.
Well, I'm glad you got here. It's the cold water faucet that's leaking.
No, I'm not the plumber. See, I'm appearing here on the vaudeville bill with you.
Jack Benny, Jack. Say, I didn't see your name on the program.
Oh, I'm in the opening act.
But the show opens with a Japanese flash act. Yamaguchi and Takamura. Gosh, they're wonderful. The way they lie on their backs and juggle that big barrel with their feet.
I know. And inside of that barrel, me.
No.
Oh, yes, Mr. Allen. While they're balancing that barrel and kicking it up in the air, I'm curled up inside with my violin, playing Ireland Must Be Heaven, because my mother came from there.
What an inspired touch. I can just hear that music coming out through the bunghole. Well, so much for flattery. Now, what can I do? What can I do for you, son?
Mr. Allen, sir, you've got to help me. I want to be a great comedian like you.
Well, if you're so anxious to earn big money, why don't you turn to radio?
Radio?
Yes, it's a gold mine. Say, I'm working on an idea for a program for myself. Now, my idea is this. I'll be the star, you see. A girl to insult me, a drunken orchestra leader, and a fat announcer.
Well, here's the studio, Mr. Allen. Let's go in.
No, Rochester. I can't go in.
What?
I can't do it, Rochester. I can't let Benny give me a job. I may be a derelict, down and out, but I've still got my pride.
But, Mr. Allen...
No, I'm sorry, Rochester. I just can't do it.
But, Mr. Allen, you haven't got any money. How are you going to live?
Don't worry about me. I'll get along. Maps! Get your maps to the movie star home. James Mason, Ronald Coleman, Mr. and Mrs. Gary Cooper, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Taylor. You can't tell me...
Come in.
Hello, Jack. Hello, Rochester.
Well, Fred Allen. Well, Fred, this is a surprise.
Really?
When did you get in town?
Last night?
Last night. Well, why didn't you call me at my hotel?
You mean you're staying at one that has phones?
Well, no, but there's a candy store in the lobby that takes messages.
Oh, I see.
Say, boss, as long as Mr. Allen's in town, why don't you put him on your stage show?
Well, thank you, Rochester, but I couldn't very well go out on a stage now. I haven't got any material.
Well, don't you have any of your old vaudeville routines left?
Well, if I did, I'd be on television.
It would be great if you could join me on my stage show, Fred.
Well, I'd really love to, Jack, but I have to rush back to Hollywood. I've been offered the lead in a new picture.
A new picture?
No Dimension. It's a new thing that's coming out. When it comes out, you don't dimension the whole thing.
So far, that's better than what we've got written here.
But in this picture, Jack, I play the part of a test pilot in Los Angeles.
I see.
The picture is called Breaking the Smog Barrier.
It's a shame you can't stay over, Fred, so we could appear together. It'd be like old times.
Say, Mr. Benny, did you and Mr. Allen once do an act together in vaudeville?
We sure did, Rochester. We had a lot of fun in those days.
Oh, gosh. You remember, Jack, how we'd always celebrate with a big dinner at Lindy's every time we got a job?
Yeah, we'd always get the best. Shrimp cocktail, turtle soup, chef salad.
Filet mignon, stuffed potatoes, strawberry shortcake.
Then I'd top it all off with a big glass of Ovaltine.
Ovaltine?
Well, he wanted to be asleep when the check came.
Those were the good old days. I'll never forget the time we rehearsed and polished our act for weeks. And we went to see Mickey Rockford, the biggest booking agent in New York. Come on, Fred. I think Mr. Rockford's office is down the hall.
Hey, it's crowded in here, Jack.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to talk to the secretary. Miss, we'd like to see Mr. Rockford.
Do you have an appointment?
Appointment? Yeah, we're Benny and Allen.
Benny and Allen?
Yeah. Don't you recognize us?
Why? Is there a reward?
You don't understand, girlie. We do a vaudeville act.
Really? Which one throws the fish?
Say, that is clever. Miss, you ought to be in show business yourself.
Me in show business?
Yes. I know a magician who saws a woman in half. You'd look better in two pieces.
Take it easy, Fred. Look, miss, we don't want to argue. We just like to see our agent, Mr. Rockford.
Well, first I'll need some information. Now, what's the name of your act again?
Allen and Benny.
I thought you said it was Benny and Allen.
Well, at 2 o'clock, our billing changes.
Well, what kind of an act do you do?
Violin, clarinet, and snappy patter.
Uh-huh.
And where have you played?
Oh, all over.
Well, where?
Well, just tell her the important dates, Jack.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we did a week in Sow Belly, Wyoming. A week in Loose Tooth, Arizona. 3 days in Stagnant Water, New Mexico. And we also played the Palace here in New York.
Sow Belly, Loose Tooth, Stagnant Water, and the Palace. Well, at least you worked your way up.
No, we played the Palace first.
Well, Mr. Rockford's busy right now, so just have a seat and I'll call you.
All right.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Allen, I don't mean to be personal, but are you an American citizen?
Yes, I got these slant eyes from pulling off a tight derby.
Come on, Fred, let's sit down.
Yes? Yes. Oh, very well, Mr. Rockford. Oh, boys, Mr. Rockford will see you now.
Good. Come on, Fred, let's go in.
Okay.
Well, come on in, fellas. Come on in. Close the door. Sit down.
Thank you. Mr. Rockford, I'm Jack Benny. This is Fred Allen.
That's right, Mr. Rockford. Remember, you booked our act in the Palace 7 years ago.
Oh, yes. What business are you in now?
Well, we're still in show business.
Yes, and we thought you could book us.
Please, fellas.
Our new act is sensational. At least give us a chance, Mr. Rockford.
Yes, all we need is one good break, you know.
I gave you a break when I put you in Lowe's Flatbush.
Some break. They opened with Fink's Mules, then Major Doty's Dogs came out, then Manny's Monkeys, then Power's Dancing Elephants.
So what?
Well, by the time we came out, we looked like the last two passengers on Noah's Ark.
Well, look, boys, I'm very busy.
Please, Mr. Rockford, just listen to our opening number. It'll only take a second.
All right, but before you... Oh, excuse me. Here, come in.
Mr. Rockford, here's the 10% commission I owe you for booking my act last week.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. The cute boy. Sonny, what's your name?
Eddie Cantor.
Eddie Cantor?
Potatoes are cheaper, tomatoes are cheaper. Now's the time to fall in love.
Mr. Rockford, how about listening to our new act?
Oh, all right, if you insist.
Ready with your clarinet, Fred?
Ready.
Okay. 1, 2. Mr. Allen.
What is it, Mr. Benny?
Have you heard that they're making women's bathing suits out of spun glass?
Women's bathing suits out of glass? Well, that's worth looking into.
I'll take it, Mr. Allen.
If you will. Mr. Benny,
yes, Mr. Allen? Pardon me.
I love music.
So do I. Music once saved my uncle's life.
Well, how did music save your uncle's life?
They played the Star-Spangled Banner just as he was sitting in the electric chair. Take it, Mr. Allen.
You know.
You don't have to finish it, you know.
Oh, Mr. Benny.
Yes, Mr. Allen.
I want you to meet my new girl. Her name is Well Enough.
Why do you call your girl Well Enough?
Because I want the boys to leave Well Enough alone. How about the finale, Mr.
In unison? All right. Well, Mr. Rockford, what do you think of it?
Wait till he gets his head out of the drawer.
Maybe he's looking for a contract.
Fellas.
Yes,
Mr. Rockford.
To tell you the truth, fellas, I'm confused. The whole act leaves me cold. It's neither fish nor fowl.
Well, that's funny. The last agent we went to thought it was both.
Well, Mr. Rockford, you mean you can't book us anywhere?
Well, actually, I don't have a thing open for a double. Have either of you considered doing a single?
What? And break up the act?
Why, we've been together for years. You can't split Benny and Allen.
It's ridiculous. We're more than just a team. We're partners, friends, buddies. Why, we'd rather starve than let anything come between us.
Well, that's a shame because I've got an opening for a single in Scranton for $15 a week.
I'll take it.
Well, if that's the way you feel, I'll take it for $14 a week, Mr. Rockford.
Fred, you'd steal a job away from your partner, your buddy, your friend?
Some friend. What did you ever do for me?
Why, you puff-eyed ingrate. For years, we've lived off my violin, my brains, my talent, my joke.
And my money. And listen, you miser. As for your violin playing, I have heard cleaner notes from a toothless Russian sipping borscht. You are just lucky you've had me and my clarinet.
Clarinet? The only way you could make a living with that clarinet is if you put a nail on the end of it and went out in the park. Mr. Rockford, rather than let you hire this no-talented wage cutter, I'll take the job for $10 a week.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'll take it for $8.
I'll take it for $5.
Well, I'll take it for $3.
Well, I'll take it for nothing.
So will I.
Well, at that price, I can afford both of you.
Jackie, did you hear that? We're working. Fred! Jack!
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes another program, and we'll be with you next week at the same time. And Fred, it was nice reminiscing.
Oh, say, Jack, we forgot to tell him about the time we played in Burning Stump, Arkansas. Remember that insulting audience?
Oh, yes. I remember while we were doing our act, the audience threw pennies on the stage, and you complained to the manager.
And when they stopped, you complained to the manager.
Come on, Fred, let's go out and get a cup of coffee.
Okay,
Good night,
Jack.
folks.
Good evening and welcome to Monday Night Playhouse. I'm Damiano Pietropaolo and I am here at the Royal George Theatre in Niagara-on-the-Lake, home of the Shaw Festival. I'm here with Artistic Director Jackie Maxwell for the fourth of this season's Bell Canada reading series. Hello, Jackie.
Hi, Damiano.
I gather we're waiting for the appearance of a very special guest.
Oh, we are indeed. And he's somewhat late, I fear.
You have a full house waiting for him. I hope he's not far away.
Well, Gilbert Keith Chesterton was never known for his predictability.
Ah, yes. GKC, friend and foe of Mr. Bernard Shaw himself.
Very much. Mr. Chesterton was an icon all to himself. A giant, really, in modern literature.
Mm-hmm.
He was an essayist, critic, poet, novelist, social commentator, extremely controversial, like his pal Bernard Shaw, and very, very funny.
And will he be reading from his own works?
Oh, yes, ably assisted by one of our veteran actors, Mr. Neil Barclay, and it was all put together by Mr. Tony Van Bridge.
One of the Shaw Festival's most revered and senior actors.
Yes, with his own history and contribution to Canadian theatre that is a story in itself.
And maybe destined for radio, too.
Oh, that would be nice.
He really is quite late.
I'm wondering if... wait, I think...
I must apologize for being late. But since I had to give up my seat on the bus to two ladies, I decided to walk. Now, I am firmly of the opinion that I was born on the 29th of May, 1874, on Camden Hill, Kensington, and baptized in the little church of St. George opposite the large waterworks tower that dominates that ridge. I indignantly deny that the church was chosen because it needed the whole water power of West London to turn me into a Christian. The very first thing I can ever remember seeing with my own eyes was a young man walking across a bridge. He had a curly moustache and an attitude of confidence verging on swagger. He carried in his hand a disproportionately large key of a shining yellow metal and wore a large golden or gilded crown. The bridge he was crossing on sprang on the one side from the edge of a highly perilous mountain chasm, and at the other end it joined the upper part of the tower of an almost excessively castellated castle. In the castle tower there was one window out of which a young lady was looking. I cannot remember in the least what she looked like, but I will do battle with anyone who denies her superlative good looks. To those who may object that such a scene is rare in the home life of house agents living immediately to the north of Kensington High Street, I shall be compelled to admit not that the scene was unreal, but that I saw it through a window much more wonderful than the window in the tower. I saw it through the proscenium arch of a toy theatre constructed by my father, and that the young man in the crown was about 6 inches high and proved on investigation to be made of cardboard. I have no shadow of recollection of what the young man was doing on the bridge, or of what he proposed to do with the key, though a later and wearier knowledge of literature and legend hints to me that he was not improbably going to release the lady from captivity. All the rest is gone. Scenes, subject, story, characters. But that one scene glows in my memory like a glimpse of some incredible paradise. And for all I know, I shall still remember it when all other memory is gone out of my mind. Early impressions count considerably in life. All my life I have loved edges and the boundary lines that bring one thing sharply against another, prosceniums and frames, limits. And I will maintain that the largest wilderness looks larger seen through a window. I've said that the toy theatre was made by my father. It is therefore to him that I owe so much for this first picture of life. My father was the head of a hereditary business of house agents and surveyors, which had already been established for some 3 generations in Kensington. My people belonged to that rather old-fashioned English middle class. And one peculiarity of this middle class was that it really was a class, and it really was in the middle. Both for good and evil, and certainly often to excess, it was separated both from the class above it and the class below. It knew far too little of the working classes, to the grave peril of a later generation. It knew far too little even of its own servants. There was a sort of silence and embarrassment between them. A lady of my family went to live in a friend's house during the friend's absence, to be waited on by a sort of superior servant. Now, the lady had got it fixed in her head that the servant cooked her own meals separately, whereas the servant was equally fixed on the policy of eating what was left over from the lady's meals. Now, the servant sent up for breakfast, say, 5 rashers of bacon, which was more than the lady wanted. But the lady had another fixed freak of conscience common in the ladies of the period. She thought that nothing should be wasted, and could not see that even a thing consumed is wasted if not wanted. She ate the 5 rashers. The servant consequently sent up 7 rashers. The lady paled a little, but followed the path of duty and ate them all. The servant, beginning to feel that she too would like a little breakfast, sent up 9 or 10 rashers. The lady, rallying all her powers, charged at them with her head down and swept them from the field. And so I suppose it went on, owing to the polite silence between the 2 social classes. I dare not think how it ended. The logical conclusion would seem to be that the servant starved and the lady burst. There's been frequent cause to refer to my size. On the occasion, for instance, of one of my many encounters with my good friend Mr. George Bernard Shaw, he prodded a finger into this ample and now notorious part of my anatomy and said, "What are you going to call it?" I said, well, if it's a girl, I shall call it Elizabeth. If it's a boy, I shall call it Gilbert Keith. But if it's just wind, I shall call it George Bernard Shaw. And on a similar occasion, I patted Shaw on his non-existent tummy and said, "I see there's been a famine." And he patted me back and said, "Yes, and we can see why, can't we?" But to return to my beginnings, the old middle class really was an educated class. It attached rather too much importance to spelling correctly. It attached enormous importance to speaking correctly, and it did spell and speak correctly. There was a whole world in which nobody was more likely to drop an H than to pick up a title. And this care about education and diction, though I can see much to criticize in it now, did have its good side. It meant my father knew all his English literature backwards, and that I knew a great deal of it by heart long before I could get it into my head. I knew pages of Shakespeare's blank verse without a notion of the meaning of most of it, which is perhaps the right way to begin to appreciate verse. And it's also recorded of me that at the age of 6 or 7 I walked down the street, excitedly reciting the words, "Good Hamlet, cast this nighted colour off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. Do not forever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust." At which appropriate moment I tripped and pitched forward on my nose. I used to say that the account of my own life ought to consist of a series of short stories like those of Sherlock Holmes, only his were astonishing examples of observation and mine astonishing examples of lack of observation. The tale is told that I once sent a telegram to my wife in London which read, "Am in Market Harborough. Where ought I to be?" I cannot remember whether this story is true, but it's not unlikely, or I think unreasonable. Perhaps it would be the exaggeration of eulogy to call me a tidy person, but I can always pretty satisfactorily account for all my possessions. I can always tell where they are and what I've done with them, so long as I can keep them out of my pockets. If once anything slips into these unknown abysses, I wave it a sad Virgilian farewell. The same presumption applies to the things I've dropped into the sea. They tell us that on the last day the sea will give up its dead, and I suppose that on that same occasion long strings of extraordinary things will come running out of my pockets. But I've forgotten what any of them are. A railway ticket. 3rd class, Oxford to London. I'm going to tell you a story. I will not say that this story is true, because as you will soon see, it is all truth and no story. It has no explanation and no conclusion. It is, like most of the other things we encounter in life, a fragment of something else which would be intensely exciting if it were not too large to be seen. My experience was a fragment of this nature, and it is at any rate not fictitious. Not only am I not making up the incidents, what there were of them, but I'm not making up the atmosphere or the landscape, which were the whole horror of the thing. I remember them vividly, and they were truly as I shall now describe. About noon of an ashen autumn day some years ago, I was standing outside the station at Oxford, intending to take the train to London. And for some reason, out of idleness, or the emptiness of my mind, or the emptiness of the pale grey sky, or the cold, a kind of caprice fell upon me that I would not go by that train at all, but would step out on the road and walk at least part of the way to London. Now, I do not know if other people are made like me in this matter, but for me, it's always dreary weather that stings into life a sense of action and romance. On bright blue days, I do not want anything to happen. The world is complete and beautiful, a thing for contemplation. But when the background of a man's life is a grey background, then I desire to paint on it in fire and gore. So the monotonous weather seemed to render unbearable the use of the monotonous train, and I set out into the country lanes out of the town of Oxford. When I had walked for some hours, the evening was closing in. A sickly sunset clung to the horizon, as if pale with reluctance to leave the world in the dark. And as it faded more and more, the skies seemed to come closer and to threaten. The clouds, which had been merely sullen, became swollen. And then they loosened and let down the dark curtains of the rain. The rain was blinding and seemed to beat like blows from an enemy at close quarters. The skies seemed to be bending over and bawling in my ears. I walked on many more miles before I met a man. In that distance, my mind had been made up, and when I met him, I asked him if anywhere in the neighborhood I could pick up the train for London. He directed me to a small, silent station which stood well away from the road and looked as lonely as a hut on the Andes. I do not think I have ever seen such a thing as that station. It looked as if it had been raining there since the creation of the world. The water streamed from the soaking wood of it as if it were not water at all, but some loathsome liquid corruption of the wood itself, as if the solid station were eternally falling to pieces and pouring away in filth. It took me nearly 10 minutes to find a man in the station. When I did, he was a dull one. And when I asked him if there was a train to London, his answer was sleepy and vague. But as far as I could understand him, he said there would be a train in about half an hour. I sat down and lit a cigar and waited, watching the last tail of the tattered sunset and listening to the everlasting rain. It may have been in half an hour or less that a train came rather slowly into the station. It was an unnaturally dark train. I could not see a light anywhere in the long black body of it, and I could not see any guard, so I was reduced to walking up to the engine and calling out to the stoker to ask if the train was going to London. "Well, yes, sir," he said with an unaccountable kind of reluctance. "It's going to London, but..." And even as he spoke, it was just starting, and I jumped into the first carriage. It was pitch dark. I sat there, smoking and wondering, as we steamed through the continually darkening landscape lined with desolate poplars, until he slowed down and stopped irrationally in the middle of a field. I heard a heavy noise, as if someone clambering off the train, and a dark, ragged head suddenly put itself in the window. "Excuse me, sir," said the stoker, "but I think perhaps you ought to know there's a dead man in this train." I regret to say I expressed myself politely but firmly to the effect that I didn't care so much as long as the train took me to London. But when it had started again with its unknown burden, I did do one thing, and that quite instinctively, without stopping to think. I threw away my cigar, something that is as old as man and has to do with all mourning and ceremonial, told me to do it. There was something unnecessarily horrible, it seemed to me, in the idea of there being only 2 men in that train, one of them dead and the other smoking a cigar. And as the red and gold of the butt end of it faded like a funeral torch trampled out at some symbolic moment of a procession, I realized the origin and essence of all ritual. That in the presence of these sacred riddles, about which we can say nothing, it is often more decent merely to do something. And I realize that ritual will always mean throwing away something, destroying our corn or wine upon the altar of the gods. When the train panted at last into Paddington Station, I sprang out of it with a newly released curiosity. There was a barrier of officials guarding the rear part of the train. No one was allowed to press towards it. They were guarding and hiding something. Perhaps death in some too shocking form, so mixed up with human mystery and wickedness that the law had to give it a sort of sanctity. I went out gladly enough into the streets and saw the lamps shining on the laughing faces. Nor have I ever known, from that day to this, what strange story I had wandered into, or what frightful thing was my companion in the dark. One day, as I was leaving London for a holiday, a friend walked into my flat in Battersea and found me surrounded with half-packed luggage. "You seem to be off on your travels," he said. "Where are you going?" "To Battersea," I replied. "The wit of your remark escapes me," he said. "I am going to Battersea," I repeated, "via Paris, Heidelberg, and Frankfurt." My remark contained no wit, it contained simple truth. I am going to wander over the whole world until once more I find Battersea. Somewhere in the seas of sunset or of sunrise, somewhere in the ancient archipelago of the earth, there is one little island which I wish to find, an island of low green hills and great white cliffs. Travellers tell me that it is called England. Scottish travellers tell me that it is called Britain. And there is a rumour that somewhere in the heart of it there is a beautiful place called Battersea. "I suppose it's unnecessary to tell you that this is Battersea," said my friend with an air of intellectual compassion. "It's quite unnecessary," I said, "and it is spiritually untrue. I cannot see any Battersea here. I cannot see any London or any England. I cannot see that door. I cannot see that chair, because a cloud of sleep and custom has come across my eyes. The only way to go back to them is to go somewhere else. The whole object of travel is not to set foot in foreign lands. It is at last to set foot on one's own country as a foreign land. The only way to go to England is to go away from it. And when after only a month's travelling I did come back to England, I was startled to find that I had told the exact truth. England did break upon me, at once beautifully new and beautifully old. A poem by me. Before the Roman came to Rye or out to Severn strode, the rolling English drunkard made the rolling English road. A reeling road, a rolling road that rambles round the shire, and after him the parson ran, the sexton and the squire. A merry road, a mazy road, and such as we did tread, the night we went to Birmingham by way of Beachy Head. I knew no harm of Bonaparte and plenty of the squire, and for to fight the Frenchmen I did not much desire. But I did bash their bagonets, because they came arrayed to straighten out the crooked road an English drunkard made, where you and I went down the lane with ale mugs in our hands, the night we went to Glastonbury by way of Goodwin Sands. His sins, they were forgiven him, or why do flowers run behind him, and the hedges all strengthening in the sun? The wild thing went from left to right, and knew not which was which, but the wild rose was above him when they found him in the ditch. God pardon us, nor harden us, we did not see so clear, the night we went to Bannockburn by way of Brighton Pier. My friends, we will not go again, nor ape at ancient rage, or stretch the folly of our youth to be the shame of age, but walk with clearer eyes and ears this path that wandereth, and see undrugged in evening light the decent inn of death. For there is good news yet to hear, and fine things to be seen, before we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green. In the early days, it was my fate to wander over many parts of England, delivering what were politely called lectures. There was a considerable appetite for such bleak entertainment, especially in the north of England, and among certain active nonconformist centres, even in the suburbs of London. Oh, with the mention of bleakness, there comes back to me the memory of one particular chapel, lying in the last featureless wastes to the north of London, to which I actually had to make my way through a blinding snowstorm, which I enjoyed very much because I like snowstorms. I was exposed to the elements for nearly 2 hours, and by the time I arrived at the chapel, I must have roughly resembled the snowman the children make in the garden. I proceeded to lecture, God knows on what, and was about to resume my wintry journey when the worthy minister of the chapel, robustly rubbing his hands and slapping his chest and beaming at me with the rich hospitality of Father Christmas, said in a deep, hearty, fruity voice, "Come, Mr. Chesterton, it's a bitter cold night. Do let me offer you an arrowroot biscuit." I assured him gratefully that I felt no such craving. I confess that the thought of returning through the snow and freezing blast for 2 more hours with the glow of that one biscuit within me and the arrowroot fire running through my veins struck me as a little out of proportion. I fear it was with considerable pleasure that I crossed the road and entered a public house immediately opposite the chapel, under the very eyes of the nonconformist conscience. Once I was nearly arrested by 2 excited policemen in Yorkshire. I was on holiday. I was engaged in that rich and intricate mass of pleasures which we disguise by the exoteric name of nothing. At the moment in question, I was throwing a big Swedish knife at a tree, practicing that useful trick by which in Stevenson's romances men murder each other. Suddenly, the forest was full of 2 policemen. They asked what the knife was, who I was, why I was throwing it, what my address was, trade, religion, opinion on the Japanese war, name a favorite cat, and so on. They also said I was damaging the tree, which was, I'm sorry to say, not true because I could not hit it. After some half hour's animated conversation, the exhibition of an envelope, an unfinished poem, which was read with great care, and I trust some profit, the elder of the 2 knights became convinced that I really was what I professed to be. That I was a journalist, that I was on the Daily News, that I lived in a particular place, that I was at present stopping with particular people in Yorkshire who happened to be wealthy and well known in the neighbourhood. The policeman acquitted me and let me pass. "But," I said, "what of the mangled tree? It was to the rescue of that tree, once a giant of the forest, now splintered and laid low by the brute superiority of a Swedish knife, that you rushed like knights errant. The facts of which I have just convinced you, that my name is Chesterton and that I am living with the well-known and philanthropic Mr. Blank of Ilkley, cannot have anything to do with the question of whether I have been guilty of cruelty to vegetables." I made the larger part of this speech to the empty wood, for the 2 policemen had vanished almost as quickly as they had come. It's very possible, of course, that they were elves. In that case, the somewhat illogical character of their view of crime, law, and personal responsibility would find a bright and elvish explanation. Perhaps if I had lingered in the glade till moonrise, I might have seen rings of tiny policemen dancing on the sward, or running about with glowworm lamps, arresting grasshoppers for damaging blades of grass. But taking the bolder hypothesis that they really were policemen, I found myself in a certain difficulty. I was certainly accused of something which was either an offence or was not. I was let off because it was proved I was a guest at a well-known house. The inference seems painfully clear. Either it is not a proof of infamy to throw a knife about in a lonely wood, or else it is a proof of innocence to know a rich man. Some time ago, while I was meditating upon morality, I was, so to speak, snatched up and put in a jury box to try people. I was put into this jury box because I lived in Battersea and my name began with the C. Looking round me, I saw that there were also summoned and in attendance in the courts whole crowds and processions of men, all of whom lived in Battersea and all of whose names began with a C. It seems that they always summon jurymen in this sweeping alphabetical way. At one official blow, Battersea is denuded of all its C's and left to get on as best it can with the rest of the alphabet. We settle down with a rollicking ease in our seats, for we are a devil-may-care race, the C's of Battersea. and an oath was administered to us in an almost inaudible manner. We understood, however, that we were to well and truly try the case between our sovereign lord the king and the prisoner at the bar, neither of whom had as yet put in an appearance. Just as I was wondering whether the king and the prisoner were perhaps coming to an amicable understanding in some adjoining public house, the prisoner's head appeared above the barrier of the dock. He was accused of stealing bicycles and was the great image of a good friend of mine. We did well and truly try the case between the king and the prisoner, and we came to the conclusion that the king was in no way implicated. Then we passed on to a woman who had neglected her children and who looked as if somebody or something had neglected her. Never have I stood so close to pain. And out of this came a curious realization of a political or social truth. I saw with an indescribable kind of clearness what a jury really is and why we must never let it go. The trend of our epoch has been consistently towards specialism and professionalism. We tend to have trained soldiers because they fight better, trained singers because they sing better, trained dancers because they dance better, and so on and so on. And the principle has been applied to law and politics. Now, one of the 4 or 5 paradoxes which should be taught to every infant prattling at his mother's knee is the following: that the more a man looks at a thing, the less he can see it. And the more a man learns a thing, the less he knows it. It is a terrible business to mark out a man for vengeance, but it is a thing to which a man can grow accustomed, as he can to other terrible things. The horrible thing about all legal officials, even the best, about all judges, magistrates, barristers, detectives, and policemen, is not that they're wicked. Some of them are quite good. Not that they're stupid. Several of them are quite intelligent. It's simply that they've got used to it. Strictly, they do not see the prisoner in the dock. All they see is the usual man in the usual place. They do not see their awful court of judgment. They see only their own workshop. Therefore, the instinct of Christian civilization has most wisely declared that into their judgments there shall upon every occasion be infused fresh blood and fresh thoughts from the streets. Men shall come in who can see the court and see the crowd, and the coarse faces of policemen and professional criminals, the wasted faces of the wastrels, the unreal faces of the gesticulating counsel, and see it all as one sees a new picture or a play hitherto unvisited. Our civilization has decided that determining the guilt and innocence of men is a thing too important to be trusted to trained men. It wishes for light upon that awful matter, so it asks men who know no more law than I know, but who can feel the things that I felt in that jury box. When it wants a library catalogued or a solar system discovered or any trifle of that kind, it uses up its specialists. But when it wishes anything done which is really serious, it collects 12 ordinary men. The same thing was done, if I remember correctly, by the founder of Christianity. Another poem. The Donkey. When fishes flew and forests walked and figs grew upon thorn, some moment when the moon was blood, then surely I was born. With monstrous head and sickening cry, and ears like errant wings, the devil's walking parody on all four-footed things. The tattered outlaw of the earth, of ancient crooked will, starve, scourge, deride me. I am dumb, I keep my secret still. Fools, for I also had my hour, one far fierce hour and sweet. There was a shout about my ears, and palms before my feet. When people ask me or indeed anybody else, why did you join the Church of Rome? The first essential answer, if it is partly an elliptical answer, is to get rid of my sins. For there is no other religious system that does really profess to get rid of people's sins. It's confirmed by the logic, which to many seems startling, by which the Church deduces that sin confessed and adequately repented is actually abolished, and that the sinner does really begin again, as if he had never sinned. And this brought me sharply back to those visions of childhood, the indescribable and indestructible certitude in the soul that those first years of innocence were the beginning of something worthy, perhaps more worthy than any of the things that actually followed them. I spoke of the strange daylight, which was something more than the light of common day, that still seems in my memory to shine on those steep roads down from Camden Hill, from which one could see the Crystal Palace from afar. Well, when a Catholic comes from confession, he does truly, by definition, step out again into that dawn of his own beginning and look with new eyes across the world to a crystal palace that really is of crystal. He believes in the dim corner and in that brief ritual. God has really remade him in his own image. He's now a new experiment of the Creator. He's as much a new experiment as he was when he was 5 years old. He stands, as I said, in the white light at the worthy beginning of the life of a man. The accumulations of time can no longer terrify. He may be grey and gouty, but he is only 5 minutes old. I've sometimes been haunted with a vague story about a wild and fantastic uncle, the enemy of parents and the cause of revolution in the nurseries, who went about preaching a certain theory. I mean, the theory that all the objects which children use at Christmas for what we call riotous or illegitimate purposes were originally created for those purposes, and not for the humdrum household purposes which they now serve. For instance, we will suppose that the story begins with a pillow fight in a night nursery, and boys buffeting and bashing each other with those white and shapeless clubs. The uncle, who would be a professor of immense learning and even greater imagination and inventiveness, would proceed to make himself unpopular with parents and popular with children by proving that the pillow in prehistoric art is obviously designed to be a club, that the sham fight in the night nursery is actually more ancient and authoritative than the whole institution of beds and bedclothes, that in some innocent morning of the world, such cherubim warred on each other with such clouds, possibly made of white samite, mystic, wonderful, and stuffed with feathers from the angels' wings, and that it was only afterwards, when weariness fell upon the world and the young gods had grown tired of their godlike sports, that they slept with their heads upon these weapons. And so, by a gradual dislocation of the whole original purpose of a pillow, it came to be recognized as having its proper place on a bed. Any number of these legends could be launched with ease and grace and general gratification. It would be urged to eagerly assenting little boys that catapults are really older and more majestic than windows. Windows were merely targets set up for catapults, clear and fragile, that such archaic archers might be rewarded with a crash and sparkle of crystal. That it was only after the oppressive priesthood of the Middle Paleolithic had ruthlessly suppressed the catapult culture that people had gradually come to use the now useless glass targets for purposes of light and ventilation. Similarly, butter was originally used solely for the purpose of making butter slides in the paths of parents and guardians. And it was only by a late accident in the life of some prominent though prostrate citizen who happened to lick the pavement that its edible qualities were discovered. True, I cannot set forth here in any great detail any actual proofs of these prehistoric origins, but it seems to me we have as much right to imagine cheerful origins as, for instance, Dr. Freud has to imagine gloomy ones. And we beg to announce with the same authority that everything began with a celestial pillow fight of cherubs, and that the whole world was made entirely for the games of children. Mentioning an uncle is enough to recall even wider memories. One of my first is playing in the garden under the care of a girl with ropes of golden hair, to whom my mother called out from the house, "You are an angel," which I was disposed to accept without metaphor. She's now living in Vancouver as Mrs. Kidd. I was once interviewed on one of those programs on the wireless in which the person being interrogated was asked a series of standard questions, among which was the following. If you were marooned on a desert island, which book would you most like to have with you? Naturally, many who were asked this question answered it variously. Some said Shakespeare, Milton, Dickens, and so on. Not a few said the Bible. I must confess I took a different view of this matter, and I said that should I find myself under such circumstances, the book I would most like to have with me would be Thomson's Guide to Practical Boat Building. There was another time when I was asked what I thought of Mr. George Bernard Shaw. I had no difficulty in answering that I thought of Mr. George Bernard Shaw very much as I had always thought of him. I actually wrote a book about him in the ancient days, and I'm happy to say that he reviewed it himself. With the typical opening, "This is the best work of literary art that I have yet provoked." I was destined to see some of Shaw's skylarking on one occasion, and to be privileged to play the fool with him far from the political platform, if not so very far from the theatrical stage. It began by Bernard Shaw coming to my house in Beaconsfield in the heartiest spirits and proposing that we should appear together, disguised as cowboys, in a film of some sort projected by Sir James Barrie. I will not describe the purpose or character of the performance, because nobody ever discovered it, with the exception, presumably, of Sir James. But throughout the proceedings, even Barrie had the appearance of concealing his secret from himself. All I could gather was that two other well-known persons, Lord Howard de Walden and Mr. William Archer, the grave Scottish critic and translator of Ibsen, had also consented to be cowboys. "Well," I said, after a somewhat blank pause of reflection, "God forbid that anyone should say that I could not see a joke if Mr. William Archer could see it." Then, after a pause, I asked, "But what is the joke?" Shaw replied with hilarious vagueness that nobody knew what the joke was. That was the joke. The mysterious proceeding divided itself into two parts. One consisted of an appointment in a sort of abandoned brickfield somewhere in the wilds of Essex, in which spot, it was alleged, our cow-punching costumes were already concealed. The other consisted of an invitation to supper at the Savoy to talk things over with Barrie and Granville Barker. I kept both these melodramatic assignations, and though neither of them threw any light upon what we were supposed to be doing, they were both very amusing in their way, and rather different from what one might have expected. We went down to the wasteland in Essex, and found our Wild West equipment. But considerable indignation was felt against William Archer, who, with true Scottish foresight, arrived there first and put on the best pair of trousers. They were indeed a magnificent pair of fur trousers, while the other three riders of the prairie had to be content with canvas trousers. A running commentary upon this piece of individualism continued throughout the afternoon, while we were being rolled in barrels, roped over fake precipices, and eventually turned loose in a field to lasso wild ponies, which were so tame that they ran after us instead of our running after them, and nosed in our pockets for pieces of sugar. Whatever may be the strain on credulity, it's also a fact that we all got onto the same motor bicycle. the wheels of which were spun round under us to produce the illusion of hurtling like a thunderbolt down the mountain pass. When the rest finally vanished over the cliffs, clinging to the rope, they left me behind as a necessary weight to secure it. And Granville Barker kept calling out to me to register self-sacrifice and register resignation, which I did with such wild and sweeping gestures as occurred to me, not, I am proud to say, without general applause. Now, about this time, Barry, with his little figure behind his large pipe, was standing about in an impenetrable manner, and nothing could extract from him the faintest indication of why we were being put through these ordeals. It was as if the smoke that rose from that pipe was a vapor not only of magic, but of black magic. But the other half of the mystery was, if possible, more mysterious. It was all the more mysterious because it was public, not to say crowded. I went to the Savoy supper under the impression that Barry and Barker would explain to a small party some small part of the scheme. Instead of that, I found the stage of the Savoy Theatre thronged with nearly everybody in London, as the society papers say when they mean everybody in society. From the Prime Minister, Mr. Asquith, to the most cryptic Oriental attaché, they were all there dining at little tables and talking about everything but the matter at hand. At least, they were all there except Sir James Barry, who on this occasion made himself almost completely invisible. Towards the end of the meal, Sir Edward Elgar casually remarked to my wife, "I suppose you know you're being filmed all this time." From what I know of my wife, it's unlikely that she was brandishing a champagne bottle or otherwise attracting social attention. But some of them were throwing bread about and showing marked relaxation from the cares of state. Then the original four, whom destiny had selected for a wild western life, were approached with private instructions, which worked out in public as follows. The stage was cleared, and the company adjourned to the auditorium, where Bernard Shaw harangued them in a furious speech with savage gesticulations, denouncing Barker and Barry, and finally drawing a sword. The other three of us rose at this signal, also brandishing swords, and stormed the stage, going out through the back scenery. And there we, whoever we were, disappear forever from the record and reasonable understanding of mankind. For never from that day to this has the faintest light been thrown on the reasons for our remarkable behavior. I have since heard in a remote and roundabout way a certain vague suggestion to the effect that there was some symbolical notion of our vanishing from real life and being captured or caught up in the film world of romance, being engaged through all the rest of the play in struggling to fight our way back to reality. Whether this was the idea, I have never known for certain. I only know that I received immediately afterwards a friendly and apologetic note from Sir James Barry saying that the whole scheme was going to be dropped. I do not know, but I have often wondered, and have sometimes fancied that there was another sense, darker than my own fancy, in which the secret put in Barry's pipe had ended in smoke. There had really been a sort of unearthly unreality in all the levity of those last hours, like something high and shrill that might crack. And it did crack. I've sometimes wondered whether it was felt that this fantasy of fashionable London would appear incongruous with something that happened some days later. For what happened then was that a certain ultimatum went out from the Austrian government against Serbia. I rang up Morris Baring at a further stage of that rapidly developing business, and I can remember the tones of his voice when he said, "We've got to fight. They've all got to fight. I don't see how anybody can help it." If the cowboys were indeed struggling to find the road back to reality, they found it all right. The aim of life is appreciation. There's no sense in not appreciating things. And there's no sense in having more of them if you have less appreciation of them. I once said that a Cockney lamppost painted pea green was better than no light or no life, and that if it was a lonely lamppost, we might really see its light better against the background of the dark. The modern millionaire comes bustling along the street to tell me he is an optimist and has 2,005,000 new lampposts, already painted not a Victorian pea green, but a futuristic chrome yellow and electric blue, and that he will plant them over the whole world in such numbers that nobody will notice them, especially as they will all look exactly the same. And I cannot quite see what the optimist has got to be optimistic about. A lamppost can be significant although it is ugly. But he's not making lampposts significant, he's making them insignificant. In short, as it seems to me, it matters very little whether a man is discontented if his discontent paralyzes his power of appreciating what he has got. The real difficulty of man is not to enjoy lampposts or landscapes, not to enjoy dandelions or chops, but to enjoy enjoyment, to keep the capacity of really liking what he likes. That is the practical problem which the philosopher has to solve. And it seemed to me at the beginning, as it seems to me now in the end, that the pessimists and optimists of the modern world have alike missed and muddled the matter through leaving out the ancient conception of humility and the thanks of the unworthy. And as I begin to believe more and more that a clue was to be found in such principles, even if it was a paradox, I was more and more disposed to seek out those who specialized in humility, though for them it was the door of heaven, and for me, the door of earth. For me, my end is my beginning, and this overwhelming conviction that there is one key which can unlock all doors brings me back to my first glimpse of the glorious gift of the senses and the sensational experience of sensation. And there starts up again before me, standing sharp and clear as in old, the figure of a man who crosses a bridge and who carries a key, as I saw him when I first looked into fairyland through the window of my father's toy theatre. Thank you, and good day.
You've been listening to GKC by Tony Van Bridge, the last in this year's Bell Canada Reading Series from the Shaw Festival. It was based on the writings of G.K. Chesterton and adapted and directed by Christopher Newton and Tony Van Bridge. In the part of Gilbert Keith Chesterton, you heard Neil Barclay. The Bell Canada Reading Series is recorded live at the Royal George Theatre in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, with special thanks going to Bill Talbot, Jim Smagata, and Christine Oakey. The recording engineer was Joe Mahoney, and the producer of the Bell Canada Reading Series is Barbara Worthy. That's it for tonight.
From the beautiful College Inn Porterhouse in Chicago's famous Hotel Sherman, we invite your family to join the millions of families from coast to coast and listen to America's favorite, Don McNeill and his Breakfast Club. And here is your Toastmaster, Don McNeill.
Good morning, Breakfast Clubbers. Good morning to ya. We woke up bright and early just now. Howdy do ya. First call to breakfast is for all of you out there. America, wake up, Breakfast Club is on the air. Well, good morning to you and a happy Tuesday
Good
night.
old Tuesday.
Yeah, good old Tuesday. Well, I'll tell you, my friends, some of you Breakfast Clubbers sure do listen carefully. And this morning, because we have an audience composed partly of secretaries, this is National Secretaries Week, you know, I'm sure they will listen carefully. Now, there's a fellow named Chuck Atwell down in Abilene, Texas. He's a traveling man, listens in his car, and he wants to know how come I insist that every girl singer we have on this program, a regular or a guest, is a cute little gal. Says I say that about everyone. He said, don't you ever have one that is just attractive or just pretty and not little? Hi, Anita.
Hi.
Well, you should see Anita. Also, he says that he catches me time after time using the phrases, as a matter of fact, and well, actually. Well, actually, I guess I do, as a matter of fact. But just to please Chuck Atwell today, if anyone here in the audience catches me using either of those phrases this morning, either actually or as a matter of fact, you say so, yell right out here, and I'll have a prize for you. So I'm going to not do it this morning.
Not do what?
This guy Atwell sent a poem, Texas Ode to Alaska. Says there's been a lot of talk of late about our newest, biggest state, about their rugged mountain range and vast uncharted snowy plains. Plains?
Yeah.
Of gold and oil and silver, too, where midnight skies are midnight blue. I'd like to speak of Texas, where we ain't afraid to stick out our nexus. You keep your blubber and your parkas. We like mink from Neiman Marcus. You keep your whale in far-off Nome. We'll take steak in San Antone. Wild quarter horses and pretty women, midday siestas, moonlight swimming. These we have, and they can't be found where there's snow upon the ground. Keep your bears in Klondike gold. Give us diamonds and ranch mink stoles. Save your elk and Kodiaks. We like golden Cadillacs. We're glad you joined the 48, but don't forget the Lone Star State. You may be second, but we love you still. Little old Texas, you ain't over the hill. Very cute.
Matter of fact,
You know, I admire the honesty of some of the people who are here this morning, some of the gang from Morris, Illinois.
Yeah?
Some of these young people, very honest. Like, for example, Lana Gregoine, I think her name is. No, Dick, sit down. Take it easy.
Right.
I don't want her close to me at all.
Why?
In fact, where are you, Lana? Well, good. As close to the door as you can get. You know what she ate on the bus? You know what she ate on the bus coming in here? Potato chips, cookies, bananas, and a peanut butter and bologna sandwich.
Sounds good.
As close to the door as you can get. And Nancy Hugas of Morris, Illinois. Do you know what she wrote on her card?
I'm afraid to ask.
She wrote, if I knew Frankie Avalon wasn't going to be here, I wouldn't have come. How are you, Dick?
I have the same trouble with my wife and daughter, so don't worry.
And listen to this from Sandy McNeill. Is that the way you pronounce that? McNeill? Huh? Is that the way you pronounce it? How do you pronounce it? Matil? Yeah. Says I'm broke. The only reason I came here is because this show is free.
That's the reason we come here.
Yeah.
They'd have had to pay if Frankie Avalon was here.
Such honesty, such honesty. Well, I'll tell you what, Dick, if you sing a song, even though you're not Frankie Avalon, and if you sing it real pretty, you will inspire 5 of the members of the class who will then sing their school song for us.
Oh, all right.
Inspire them,
All
will you,
right,
please?
all right.
Here's Dick.
I love you for sentimental reasons. I hope you do believe me. I'll give you my heart. I love you, and you alone were meant for me. Please give your loving heart to me, and say we'll never part. I think of you every morning, dream of you every night. Darling, I'm never lonely whenever you're inside. I love you for sentimental reasons. I hope you do believe me. I've given you my heart. I've given you my heart. I've given you my heart.
All right. Well, that should have inspired these 5 gals. Where are the 5
Third
gals?
row, I think, Don.
That sing. All right, girls, would you stand up, please? We want to hear this beautiful, talented group of little gals sing their class song here. This is very dainty, very beautiful, very inspired. All right, girls.
That's what I inspired.
Not Silent Night, girls. Your class song, if you please. All right.
We are the sophomores, and we have fun. We are the class of 61. Like us, nobody like us. We are the sophomore class. Rock, rock.
Beautiful thing, yeah.
You know,
What do you say, Frankie?
It's wonderful being an inspiration to something like
Yes,
that.
it does your heart good, doesn't it?
Yes, very good.
Gives you kind of a warm feeling.
A warm feeling in the
Down
pit of my
here,
stomach.
yeah. All right.
I have often heard Bill Crenn sing that same number.
Have you?
He was in the same class. Oh, 1861.
Well, our young lady who's going to sing for you now just graduated from high school a year ago. Now she's doing her scholarship duties at Northwestern University as a result of being Miss Oklahoma and very close to being Miss America. But we're glad she just came close so she could be with us. That is a very cute lavender outfit you have on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It is.
Empire.
What?
Empire. That's that new
Watch
style
your
they have.
language,
Is that a new style where they wear the babushka around their waist? Whatever it is. Right?
All I got to say is if you tried to have a waistline that high, you'd be in trouble. All right, what are you going to sing for us?
Are you lonesome tonight?
What's that again?
Are you lonesome tonight?
Go ahead and sing, never mind me.
Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer day when you kissed me and called me sweetheart? Do the chairs in the parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at the doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Won't you come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome?
That was Anita Bryan rehearsing for her appearance in the Evanston jail, where she will be singing Are You Lonesome Tonight?
8 to the bars.
8 to the bar. Now, Mrs., I'm not sure if it's Miss or Mrs. Niendorf.
Miss Niendorf.
Niendorf.
Niendorf, yes.
And you're a secretary here in Chicago, are you?
Yes, I am.
And also hostess for this program?
Right.
You mean you are in charge of the gals who came down here?
Yes.
What's your secretarial job? Is it unusual?
Oh, I think it is. I work for an auctioneer, and we travel. I travel all parts of the country.
Oh, when he I can just hear him dictate to you. Secretary, take some dictation. Is that the way he dictates?
Oh, no.
Well, it gives you an opportunity to meet all kinds of people, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. All walks of life.
What should a good secretary do? What's the most important thing a boss should have for a secretary, would you say?
Good
consideration.
What?
A good lap for sitting
No,
on.
that's ridiculous. No,
No.
secretary ever sits in a boss's lap anymore.
No.
No, you never do you?
No, I don't.
Uh-huh. Consideration, you say?
Yes.
That's a good quality. I was thinking of a real good fountain pen, too. That wouldn't hurt either, would it?
No.
I'm still thinking of sitting on a lap.
When your boss signs letters, is his signature readable?
Oh, yes.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Does he ever scratch notes out in shorthand for you to type up into letters?
No.
He doesn't, huh?
No.
Does yours ever do that?
Yes.
Yes. I often do that for my secretary, too. How do you pronounce your name?
Egan.
Egan.
Yes.
Now, in your secretarial duties, you had an unusual experience, didn't you?
That's correct.
What's that?
I took dictation in the dark, complete darkness, for 2 hours.
What, was he afraid to turn on the lights? Or
No.
what?
It occurred at a meeting at Orchestra Hall. My boss had asked me to accompany him to take notes. And when we arrived and we were set for the meeting, they put all the house lights out, and the lecture was in the form of information projected upon the screen, necessitating the putting out of the lights. And I was to take shorthand in the darkness. And I did it. My employer says you do the best you can.
Could you read it,
I would say I read 3/4 of a completely full notebook when I returned.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
My boss thought so, too.
Yes. You get a nice boss?
Very nice.
Good.
Did we give Sam this shorthand notebook
Shorthand
and
notebook?
name him the Male Secretary of the Year?
Male Secretary of the Year.
Well, that's quite an honor.
But not what year.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of that.
Any old year, huh?
Any old year will do.
I'll go up here and take notes, and or would you rather dictate in the dark like the other lady?
We have our National Secretary of the Year here, Miss Jean Sagan. She's going on another program after she leaves here.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad she gets around. Fine. Well, say hello to her for me and wish her the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Male Secretary. All right. Here comes a song by Dick Noel that I think you might enjoy, and just like there shouldn't be 1 week probably for secretaries, it should be all year long that the boss shows them consideration. So with this song, every day is Mother's Day at our house.
Every day is Mother's Day at our house. Everything depends on Mom at our house. Her loving hands are never still the whole day long. She understands and always will when things go wrong. Like an angel, always there to guide us. All our lives she'll always walk beside us. So we don't wait for just a day in May to show our love at our house. Every day is Mother's Day.
Thank you, Dick. That brings us to Hymn Time with Anita Bryant.
Brightly beams our Father's mercy from His lighthouse evermore. But to us He gives the keeping of the lights along the shore. Let the lower lights be burning for fainting, struggling seamen. You may rescue, you may save.
Each in his own words, each in his own way. For a world united in peace, let us bow our heads and pray. Amen. Memory time. This appeared in Sunshine magazine, and in the March issue, it's called Call Our System What You Will. The American system of doing things has various descriptive names. One is free enterprise, another is capitalism. A relatively new one is people's capitalism. It may be that the last is the best, for it tersely covers a situation which makes us close to unique among the nations. In the United States, the masses of the people have the financial ability to own a direct stake in the enterprises which produce our goods and services. And great numbers of them have taken advantage of that opportunity. For example, the owners of stock in American corporations number close to 10 million. The great majority of these people are in the moderate income brackets. They include every craft and calling: merchants, professional men, mechanics, white-collar workers, insurance salesmen, and they also include large numbers of retired people. These shareholders have put a part of their savings in companies in whose future they have confidence, the hope of getting a good, steady return in the form of dividends. In doing that, they have done much more. They have concretely expressed their faith in the principles in which the American economic system is based. They've said, in effect, that their welfare demands the support and perpetuation of that system. So call this system what you will, one thing is sure: it has done more good for more people than any other system ever devised. I'm always interested in the ambitions of young people. Janet Decker has an unusual one, although it may not be so unusual among people her age. Where's Janet? Janet, wilt thou come up here and have words with me, please? She and her girlfriend have a dual ambition, you might say. What do you and your girlfriend hope to be, Janet?
Me and my girlfriend, we've always had the ambition. We want to be the first women on the moon.
You want to be the first women on the moon?
Mm-hmm.
I see. What would you do up there?
Well, we want to marry Moon Man and have twins.
Marry moon men and have twins.
Maybe that's where I need to go.
Well,
You think so? It might help to go to the moon, get a man?
you're having trouble down here, are you?
Sure.
Oh, come now.
All girls have trouble. That's right.
You're not having any difficulty, are you, Janet?
Oh, I guess not.
No. I mean, some of these Earthmen aren't too bad. You get to know? No. It would be nice, though. I bet you'd get scared, though. You'd get chicken if you really had a chance to get in a rocket and they said, "Okay, kid, off to the moon." Wouldn't you?
I don't know. I might.
You might, yeah. Well,
try it.
Fine. Just so happens I got one parked out here in the alley. So. I'm just kidding you. Well, I hope if you are the first gal that goes to the moon, I hope that you'll find what you want up there.
I do too.
It's supposed to be made of green cheese.
What does she think a moon man would look like?
What would a moon man look like?
I don't have a place.
I do. Stand up, Sam. That's about it, I think. Yeah. Better stay here, Janet.
Second thought, I'll stay here, too.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants those old moon men. Here's another one of the young Morris, Illinois students, Peggy Montfort. Peggy, let's take care of this little matter for your mother right now. Her mother is under a misapprehension here, and I think we ought to inform her what's going on. Let's tell Mother right now. Tell her, what does your mother think?
She thinks she's still on television.
Yes, and every morning she turns on the TV, what does she get?
Captain Kangaroo.
Yes, good. That is not us. Although I can see where she'd wonder sometimes, yeah. Wow.
Wow, he's right.
Let's get them both together, huh? Anita and Dick and Juanita.
Soft o'er the fountain, lingering falls. the southern moon, far to dwell. Weary looks yet tender, speak their fond farewell. Nita, Juanita, ask thy soul if we should part. Nita, Juanita, bring thou on my heart.
Beautiful song, but I'm complaining.
About what?
There's never been a song written for Anita.
For Anita.
Mhm. Anita.
Well, there certainly shall be. We'll have one by tomorrow morning.
You betcha, boy.
Really?
Won't we, songwriters?
Yes, sir, we sure will, Doc.
Oh, good.
Yes.
We could even have one by yesterday morning if we hurry.
If we hurried, yeah. After all, you are sitting next to the writer of Dorothy Hermesheimer. You know.
Oh,
Anything can happen here.
Let's be specific.
Well, now, wait a
I'm sitting
minute.
next to her, too.
Dick, please, if you haven't got anything to say, don't say it.
That was the best I could do. If you haven't got anything to say, let me keep still.
But this song of Sam's, Dorothy Hermesheimer, people haven't forgotten it. Now, Ralph Wells of Marshfield, Vermont, says, as we returned from Florida to the hills of Vermont, we named our car Dorothy Hermesheimer, the mountain climber. Mrs. Thomas McCannon of Fairfax, Virginia, says her 3-year-old goes around all day singing, I love Dorothy Hermesheimer, boom. And Mrs. Venuta Albee of Salinas, California, heard her 4-year-old Kathleen wind up her prayers the other evening, said, God bless Mommy, Daddy, and then she named all the aunts, uncles, cousins, and neighbors, and Dorothy Hermesheimer. And Mrs. George Benson of Silverton, Oregon, says, I felt we needed a new song. I was hungry for a new song. Since hearing Dorothy Hermesheimer, I'm fed up. Nice comment. And Miss Nikki Zelenko of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, wrote and said, I've been home from school with a chicken pox and Dorothy Hermesheimer. You inspired me to draw a picture of her, and she encloses it. And I think it's a striking likeness of Dorothy Hermesheimer, including the long underwear on it. So for all who are sick and ill this morning, why don't you do Dorothy Hermesheimer?
I love Dorothy Hermesheimer. She's a mountain climber, female mountain climber. I love Dorothy Hermesheimer, and I know she loves me.
Beautiful, beautiful, isn't it? Real lilt. Well, now we'll hear from more people.
Tomorrow we'll have Anita.
On second thought, I don't think I want Sam.
Oh,
to write
you
a
asked
song
for
me.
it.
It's too late.
Yeah. They said it couldn't be done, but it'll be done.
It will be done.
Anita.
Not good, but it'll be done.
That's right. Now, where's Clarence Crozier of Champaign, Illinois? I want Anita to take a look at him, because here's another fellow who got in trouble, just like Anita has. She got arrested, you know, for...
I was afraid that might happen since she was from Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, same thing. Are you from Oklahoma?
No, I'm from Illinois.
Oh. What might happen if she was from Oklahoma?
They're a bunch of tough characters down there.
Oh, yeah. Well, she got arrested up here, though.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. You got arrested in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma City, right. That's good.
Oh, that is a switch. Well, why did they arrest you, Clarence?
Well, I happened to be in Wichita, Kansas, and this desperate criminal robbed a bank out there, and he happened to have the same name except the middle initial. And I went from Wichita to Oklahoma City, and they put spotters out for me all day at the airlines and the railroad station, and I waited till I had a flight back to Wichita about 8:30 that evening, and they picked me up at the airport about 8:30.
Did you have any idea what was going on?
I had no idea what was going on, and the two that picked me up wouldn't tell me what was going on. So they drugged me downtown and held me for about an hour, and in the meantime, all these things are churning, you know. You're thinking what might have happened to you, and they wouldn't tell me. And finally, they showed me this
You were
flyer.
thinking of all the wrong things you did.
All your sins catch up with you.
Yeah, which one they got me for?
So then they showed me this flyer that had the picture on it, and I happened to be wearing a brown hat, and the man was about the same age and build and had the same name, and being an unusual name, which you don't find too often, why, they locked me up for a while. So the only thing that saved me was one thumbprint. They had the man's fingerprint on the flyer, and after they checked all of them,
found you weren't the guy.
That was it.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of an amazing experience.
Yes, it was.
Scared the living daylights out of you, didn't it?
Well, when people that travel all the time, you expect certain things to happen, but this is one that shouldn't happen to you.
No, it shouldn't happen to anybody. Well, Clarence, I'm glad you got out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So long, you breakfast clubbers, good day for me. Once again tomorrow, you'll hear my plea.
Yes, sir, I want to thank all of you for helping us make a neighborhood of the nation. And so until tomorrow, when the whole gang will be with us here again, and I hope you'll be with them, this is your Toastmaster Don McNeill and the bunch saying so long and be good to your neighbor.
Don McNeill's Breakfast Club has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Allerton, my friends, the Heinz Honey and Almond Cream Program. Starring George Burns and Gracie Allen with Frank Parker, Ray Noble and his orchestra, and Truman Bradley speaking. And now for those two friendly hands, George Burns and Heinz Honey, Gracie Allen.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello, Gracie. Coming down to the studio tonight, I saw a big banner saying "Vote for Gracie."
Yeah, I know.
All over town, I see billboards saying "Put Gracie in the White House."
Mm-hmm.
It's in the newsreels. It's in the papers. Signs right here on the stage saying "Send Gracie to Washington." What does this mean?
Well, George, I'll let you in on a secret. I'm running for president.
You're running for president?
Yes.
Gracie, how long has this been going on?
For 450 years. George Washington started it.
Gracie, why are you running for president?
Well, because that's the only way you can get to the White House. You can't just walk in and sit down.
The idea is preposterous.
And not only that, but it pays good money.
Look, you don't stand a chance. Presidents are born.
Well, what do you think I was, hatched?
There's nobody who'd be any happier about your success than I'd be. But in the entire history of the United States, there's never been a woman president.
Oh, yeah, isn't that exciting? I'll be the first one.
But I tell you...
Hello, George. Hello, Gracie.
Hello, Frank.
I tell you haven't got a Chinaman's chance.
Well, I don't know about that. Confucius say, lady who has eye on presidential chair pretty soon gets seat on it.
And George Burns say, girl who talk nutty Wednesday make good nut Sunday.
Oh, that's good.
How do you like that joke, Frank?
Egyptian monument.
Egyptian monument?
Sphinx.
It does, Gracie, have you any idea what a person has to be before they can become president?
Sure, elected.
The whole thing is absurd.
Oh, stop worrying, George. I may not even be elected until next November.
Well, that's a load off my mind.
I might not even be in the White House before 1941.
I say. In other words, you're as good as in.
I'm better than in.
What do you mean you're better than in?
Well, if I was in now, I'd have to be getting out next January.
You, the President of the United States.
And Mexico.
And Mexico?
Well, sure. It's just across the border from California, so it'll be easy for them to vote for me.
What about Canada?
It'll be a landslide.
You know, this may be a shock to you, but there are some places that don't belong to the United
So
States.
what? How many votes are there in Glendale anyway?
For president, it takes a person with tremendous stamina, a person with unusual ability and sound judgment, a mental genius.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks. The president has to have courage and show plenty of backbone.
Show plenty of backbone. Well, wait till you see my new evening dress.
Still doesn't make you a leader of men. You have to have plenty of followers.
Well, wait till you see my new evening dress.
Oh, quiet. The president must have determination. He must let people see what he's made of.
Well, wait till you
See my new evening dress, I know.
Say, Gracie, when you're elected president, you want to change the income tax laws so all stars are allowed the same deductions.
Frank, in this country, everybody's allowed the same deductions.
Oh, yeah? Look what Sally Rand is allowed to take off each year.
How do I get mixed up in these things?
Well, Frank's helping me in my campaign.
Then it'll be a tremendous success.
Sure. You see, every day I have to go out and kiss a lot of babies. And Frank goes along with me to kiss the mothers.
Yeah. He does, huh?
Yes.
Oh, yes, boy, and I'm a terrific speaker. Why, I addressed 500 mothers this afternoon.
What did you say to them?
Get in line there, kiddies. Get in line there.
Kiddies?
That he did.
Now, listen to me, Gracie. This thing has got to stop before it goes too far.
Say, George, didn't you know that Gracie was running for president?
Sure, I knew it. But I didn't think she was serious.
Well, certainly she's serious. So are Dewey and Garner.
Yeah, but Dewey and Garner have political affiliations.
Well, maybe that's because they weren't vaccinated.
You don't understand. Have you got a Republican or a Democratic machine in back of you?
No, that's a bustle.
A bustle. Well, I knew it looks good. Glad I asked.
Isn't it exciting, George?
Isn't what exciting?
Well, if Gracie gets in, it'll be the first time that a woman president has ever been elected for a third term.
A third term?
Oh, yes. Oh, she's done a splendid job. I mean, you show me any other country where you can get a double-decker ice cream cone for a nickel.
Ray, I've got a surprise for you. Gracie hasn't done her first and second term yet. You've got her mixed up with Roosevelt.
Oh, no, I haven't. Roosevelt lives in the White House in Washington, and Gracie lives in the Yellow House in Beverly Hills. I know.
Ray, sometime I'm going to have you psychoanalyzed.
Oh, thanks just the same, George. But I've already taken out my first papers.
Well, welcome to our country. That's the silliest thing I ever heard of.
Miss Allen, Hymie's thinking the photographers are ready now to take those campaign pictures.
Oh, now don't go away, boys. I'll be right back.
Now, listen to me, fellas.
Stop worrying, George. Gracie's promised to give us all swell government jobs.
Government jobs?
Sure.
Are you sap enough to fall for that, Truman?
Sap? Just a minute, George. That's no way to speak to a Supreme Court justice.
Supreme Court justice? Truman, do you actually believe...
Just think, George. I'll be the only ambassador to Great Britain who ever played a violin.
Gracie told you that she would make you ambassador to Great Britain, huh?
Yes. Oh, I had my choice of that or Secretary of the Navy.
I see. But you didn't want to be Secretary of the Navy.
No, I look so silly in a sailor suit.
This whole thing is ridiculous. What did she promise to make you, Frank? Secretary of the Treasury?
Well, she wanted to judge, but I'm too smart to tumble for anything like that.
Well, I'm glad there's somebody left on this program with some sense.
I'm the new Postmaster General.
Postmaster General?
Sure, on account of my experience.
What experience have you had?
Want to play post office?
Oh, go away. Go away. Silly man.
Boys, where do you see the picture I had taken?
I'm not interested in any picture. We're here to do a broadcast.
Did you know that the Democrats have a donkey and the Republicans have an elephant?
What have you got, a squirrel?
Oh, I wish I'd thought of that. But I posed with a kangaroo.
A kangaroo?
Well, it'll make a wonderful campaign picture.
I'll bet.
It was a mama kangaroo, and the little baby kangaroo was sticking his head out of the pouch. And it's
A baby kangaroo sticking his head out of the pouch?
Yes, and it's got to be my election slogan.
What slogan?
It's in the bag.
It is, Woman back.
Has any man ever said to you, darling, I love you forever? He says forever, but in your secret heart you know he means forever as long as you keep yourself attractive. So by all means, help your hands keep their smooth loveliness. Use Heinz Honey and Almond Cream day in and day out. Every single ingredient in Heinz lotion is good for rough or tender skin, whether it's on your face, your hands, or your body. This fine, fragrant cream helps prevent chapping and roughness, and that awful weathered dryness that makes your skin look so drawn and old. Smooth Heinz lotion all over your red hands and wrists. Notice how even one application makes your chapped hands feel softer, look more appealing. Use Heinz as a powder base, too. See how evenly it holds the powder, no caking at all. And as a body rub, Heinz is a honey. It's so extra creamy, extra softening, that every drop brings real soothing comfort to tender skin. Heinz Honey and Almond Cream contains 2 vitamins, 2 A and D. You can count on Heinz, H-I-N-D-S, for softer, smoother, lovelier skin on hands, face, and body. Now, here is...
Stop.
Frank, I just sent a telegram to my campaign chairman in the Middle West.
Oh, good.
He told me he couldn't get any support from the Farm Belt.
So what?
So I told him to wear suspenders.
What happens if the county seat has 2 pairs of pants?
Oh, George, you're just trying to say, to make me say silly things so people will laugh at me.
That's bad, huh?
Say, Gracie, what's going to be the name of your party?
Well, Truman, you've heard of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party?
Yes.
Well, mine's going to be the Surprise Party.
The what?
The Surprise Party. Surprise, S-U-R-P-R-I-S-E.
Yeah, S for screwy, U for useless.
Yeah, and R for reading, writing, and arithmetic.
P for pinhead.
Yeah, and R for oysters are in season. And I, an I for an eye.
A tooth for a tooth.
And S for some fun, and E for pencils.
E for pencils?
Ever shop?
Well, that all depends on how you look at it.
Say, the surprise party's a swell name, I think. How'd you happen to call it that, Gracie?
Well, my daddy is a Democrat, and my mother is a Republican. And when I was born, I was a surprise.
So was the panic of 1907.
Gracie?
Yes, Bubbles?
You know those temporary campaign headquarters we opened on Broadway this morning?
Yes.
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to move them.
Why?
There's a streetcar coming.
Oh.
Gracie, just tell the streetcar, believe it or not, you're waiting to be president.
Oh, Gracie, I'm working on your campaign song.
You've got a campaign song?
Oh, yes. It starts like this. I'll be down to get you with the taxpayers' money. Better be ready by the 8:30.
Oh, dearie, don't be late. Let's sing a song. What do you say?
Oh, by the way, Gracie, you know those pictures in Life magazine of that Republican candidate catching that big mackerel at Miami?
Yes?
Well, I just found out that he's just caught it again in Lake Michigan.
Ray, the whole thing was done to get votes.
No, really. What's the fish running for?
It's because it doesn't want to get caught.
Miss Allen, did you see this morning's paper?
No, what was in it?
My lunch.
Your lunch?
George, this is my publicity man, Gene.
How do? Well, I'll run along now, but don't forget, Miss Allen, you're jumping out of that plane in the morning.
You're jumping out of a plane in the morning?
Only 10,000 feet. It's just to attract attention.
You're liable to get killed.
Oh, sure, but look at all the publicity I'll get.
Gracie, will you stop this?
Miss Allen, I'm a sign painter. Are the slogans ready for your campaign signs?
Oh, well, I'll make up a few right now. Bubbles, get a pencil.
Okay.
Number 1. Confucius says, Gracie Allen for prez.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I've got it.
Number 2. Gracie Allen for alderman.
Gracie Allen for alderman?
Yeah, and aldermen for Gracie Allen.
Hey, that's wonderful.
Yes, and baking powder for Burns.
Number 3.
That's great.
Yes.
Thanks.
Number 3, we'll make one sign with nothing on it.
A sign with nothing on it?
Sure, to get the nudist vote.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Gracie, why don't you have a doctor examine your head, and if he finds anything, have somebody examine the doctor.
Well, that would be a good idea for me, too.
Yes, do that.
You know, I think this will make an awfully jolly sign, Gracie. If you're 21, vote for Gracie Allen. If you're not 21, have your mother do it for you. If your mother isn't 21, ask your father. If your father isn't 21, then don't bother reading this sign.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Wonderful.
Sign painter, get out of here with that's wonderful.
All right, Mr. Boynes, but you'll hear from me when I'm Attorney General.
At least, Gracie, if you are elected, I'll get rid of you for 4 years.
12 years.
12 years?
For sure, I'm not superstitious about third terms.
You're not, huh? Do you people realize that right now our sponsor is probably listening?
Oh, I say, Bubbles, I happened to see a drawing of you on the Republican poster. Quite flattering, too. Who drew that?
Mr. Noble, that was an elephant.
It's amazing. What will they teach him to do next?
Cheerio. Oh, cheerio, yes. You know, Gracie, I've been worrying about the speeches you're going to make at your rallies.
Have you rallied?
Yes, at your rally. Well, wait till you hear the speeches, Crew, and then you'll have something to worry about.
Well, I'm serious, George. You see, Gracie, a presidential candidate has to shake hands with millions of people.
As if we don't know what's coming.
Why, in a single campaign, the average candidate shakes enough hands to milk all the cows in the country.
Is that so? And what do they do with all the milk?
They use it to whitewash their opponents.
Say, George, is it true that the whitewash is
That's
more
enough,
than the
Gracie. You don't even
blackwash?
have to finish it. Just stay where you
I want to
are.
know.
So at your rallies, Gracie, I can protect you. You see, before each meeting, I can tell the voters how Heinz Honey and Almond Cream will make their hands soft and make their hands white and make their hands smooth.
Well, what if they've only got two hands?
Then they can use a small bottle.
Oh.
See what I mean? A small size.
Yes.
Why, if they'll only use the 25-cent bottle while you're speaking, Gracie, their hands will be thrilling to touch and good till the last drop.
Truman, you're thinking of Maxwell House coffee.
Oh, pardon me.
Oh, hello, Jim.
Hello, Miss Allen. Well, they said I couldn't do it. Well, I couldn't get anywhere here in Los Angeles, so I flew right to Sacramento. I couldn't get to first base there. So without food or sleep, I went on to Jefferson City, Missouri. From there to Springfield, Illinois. On into Albany, New York City, and then to Washington, D.C., and I clicked.
Nice work.
Here it is.
What is that?
Horns.
Horns?
I've got to give them out at my convention.
Well, I give up.
These are $3 a dozen, Miss Allen, and they're a steal.
Okay, steal me a dozen.
Now, here's a horn that the Republicans and Democrats are using. Of course, this is very hard to blow.
Oh, well, they have more wind than we have.
Yeah, but not between the ears. And what is this convention?
For the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, where are you going to hold it?
By the handle.
Come on, come on.
Bubbles, sit down and take a letter. All right. Now, is the letter important, or can I leave my gloves on? Well, it's...
Gracie, you better talk quietly. She uses a soft pencil.
Oh. Letter. Frank, what's today's date?
Elsie, Edna couldn't make it.
February 28th.
All right, I'm ready. Oh, good. To all other presidential candidates, semicolon, United States of America, period, gentlemen, question mark.
Gentlemen, question marks.
I've got it. Well, boys, the jig is up.
Well, it's a nice opening.
Election day will be in November this year. Turkeys will cost you 38 cents a pound. Cranberries will be 50 cents a bucket. Plum puddings will be $2 each. But a good president won't cost you a nickel, so be sure and go out and vote for me.
You're asking the other presidential candidates to vote for you?
Oh, sure, there's so many presidential candidates that if I only get half of them to vote for me, I'm bound to be elected.
I see what you mean.
Go ahead, continue. This letter is being dictated by a lady, typewritten by a lady, so don't forget to take your hats off while you're reading it.
I've got it.
All right. Signed Gracie Allen, President of the United States, and mail it out right away.
Gracie, you're not president yet.
Well, I will be by the time this letter is delivered.
That's some letter.
And Bubbles, make 50,000 copies.
One for each candidate.
Yes.
I thought so, yes.
Bubbles, address the envelopes in girlish handwriting. Mark it personal and send it to their homes. I want their wives to read it, too.
50,000 copies. Well, it's a nice hunk of postage to throw away.
What do you mean, postage? I'll initial the corners of the envelopes, and they won't need stamps.
Frank, will you believe this? For a minute, I forgot that you were Postmaster General.
Well, that's life, I guess.
Yes, I guess so.
People
That's
forget,
right.
you know.
Miss Allen, the reporters are here.
Well, send them in.
The reporters?
Uh-huh.
This way, gentlemen.
Miss Allen, I'm Harry Crocker of the Examiner.
How do?
Matt Weinstock, Daily News.
How
Casey
do?
Shawn, Los Angeles Times.
How do?
Gracie, why are you shaking hands with your left hand?
Well, I'm saving my right hand for when I'm president.
How do?
How do?
Miss Allen, my newspaper wants to know just what your platform is.
Well, it's knotty pine trimmed with oak and inlaid with California redwood.
That's to match your head?
Yes.
I thought so, yes.
Miss Allen, what would be the first thing you would do if you were elected?
I put my daddy in the Senate.
Your daddy doesn't know anything about the Senate.
Oh, yeah, he's been making speeches from the floor for years.
He's still on the floor, I'll bet.
That's my daddy.
That's the kid, yeah.
Miss Allen, my city editor wants to know what your opinion is on capitalism versus the little man.
Oh, I don't know. I never go to wrestling matches.
Are you in favor of monopolies?
Oh, well, I don't play Monopoly. I like Mahjong better.
What do you think of the neutrality bill?
Well, if we owe it, let's pay it.
Gracie, why don't you call this off? You know nothing about it. You haven't said one thing that's right.
Well, I'd rather be president than right.
Boys, there's no use trying to interview her.
Mr. Burns, will you stop balling her up?
I'm balling her up?
Yeah,
quiet.
Miss Allen, all the other candidates are talking on how to bring back prosperity. Now, what's your point?
She doesn't even know what prosperity is.
I do, too. Prosperity is when business is good enough so that you can buy the things on credit that you can't afford anyway, and that way you can save enough money to pay cash for new things after they've taken back the things you've got on credit.
How are you doing, boys?
Miss Allen, would you recognize Russia?
Well, that's hard to say. You see, I meet so many people.
You don't have to meet them all on this program, do you?
What do you think of the British blockade?
Oh, we'll get by.
We will, Alan.
Look, I say, George, I don't mind being referred to as British, but I do object to being called a blockade.
Boys, this is Ray Noble.
Hello.
How do? He looks like a pipe cleaner I once threw away.
Well, now, that's possible. Where did you throw me?
Cheerio.
Oh, cheerio.
Cheerio, yeah.
Miss Allen, what do you think of our national debt?
Well, we ought to be proud of it. It's the biggest in the world.
Boys, either go ahead or just go so that we can do our broadcast.
Quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah, quiet. Now, Miss Allen, how would you keep our gold reserve from shrinking?
Well, I'd wash it in luck.
Truman, maybe you can get these guys out.
Well, I'll try, George. Say, boys, I've got a bottle in my overcoat.
A bottle?
Scotch or rye.
High and sunny almond cream.
Thanks, Truman.
You're too late, Truman. I gave that bottle to my girl. She's got a couple of chaps I'm trying to get rid of.
Thanks, Frank.
Boys, this is Frank Parker, the Postmaster General.
He ought to be swell. He's got a face like an old-style 1-cent stamp.
It's a nice TL for you, Pinky.
Thanks.
Now, Miss Allen, just a few more questions.
Boys.
Is there anything we can actually...
Boys, are you through?
Not yet, Mr. Burns, but don't feel that you have to stick around on our account.
Well, this is the end. I'm going to call up the sponsor and explain the whole thing to him. I'm not going to lose my job.
Come on, boys, let's finish the interview.
Operator, get me long distance.
Hold the line.
Miss Allen, is there anything...
Now, please, boys, Mr. Burns is calling the sponsor.
Hey, this Noble guy looks very familiar. Mr. Noble, didn't I once see you in Yonkers?
I don't think so. I haven't worn a pair of Yonkers in years.
Long distance.
Get me Mr. Marvin of the Heinz Honey and Almond Cream Company, New York.
Hold the line.
Miss Allen, is there anything that you can actually promise the voters?
Oh, sure. I can promise voters that if I can't find a way to reduce the high cost of living, then we'll just have to do without it.
Here's your party.
Hello, Mr. Marvin.
Yes?
This is George Burns speaking.
Oh, yes. How are you?
Well, I just want to call you up and tell you that I have nothing to do with Gracie's running for president. I've been trying to do a broadcast, and all she's been doing is giving away political jobs.
Well, that's the president's privilege,
Oh,
and believe me...
quiet. Let me get through talking. It's ridiculous, Mr. Marvin, making an orchestra leader an ambassador, making a tenor a postmaster general, and making an announcer a Supreme Court justice. It's not my doing, and I just want to tell you that I'm not going to stand for it.
Just a minute, Mr. Burns. Don't raise your voice to the Secretary of State.
Secretary of State! And here's a bit of handy advice.
Children love playing in the snow. But you know how that cold wind and freezing slush can chafe their hands and knees? They come indoors with cheeks as red as apples, looking so healthy and lovable. But the first thing you know, their tender skin feels so uncomfortable. And their little hands are so red and chapped, you feel positively sorry for them. Now, it's easy to help guard against chapping in the first place. Train your youngsters to cream their hands and faces with Heinz before going out in the cold. Heinz Honey and Almond Cream is extra creamy, extra softening. Helps keep skin smooth and comfortable. Put a bottle of Heinz in the coat closet, ready to smooth on hands and faces and knees. Children love Heinz. It's so nice and fragrant, not sticky either. Just feels so grand and soothing. You can get Heinz Honey and Almond Cream at toilet goods counters in 10, 25, 50-cent sizes, or the big economy dollar size for family use.
And now Gracie will sing Chula Chihuahua. Sing it.
Agua caliente, I'll never forget. Agua caliente, there is where I bought a pet. A little toy, oh boy, my chihuahua, he is my pride and joy. How I love the promenade, the boulevard, walking my chihuahua. People stop to stare most everywhere when I'm walking my chihuahua. All the dogs are jealous because the fellas keep petting my chihuahua. Though he isn't much protection, that's why men show their affection for me. See, 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 he goes woof, woof, woof.
Chula, chula.
Bow, bow, wow.
Bonita, bonita.
Woof, woof, woof.
Figurita, figurita.
In Mexico, it's I love you. Meet the moon above, I met my secret love walking my chihuahua. If you're lonely, there is only one thing to do. Get a chihuahua. Walk this way. Hip, hip, hooray. Chula, chihuahua. Chihuahua, wah. Wah, 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 wah. Chula, chihuahua. See, see. Come and see the company that comes to see me and my chihuahua. Tea time is the time they come to tea time with me and my chihuahua. Dogs of noble pedigree are jealous of me and my chihuahua. But I prefer him to a Scotty because he's just a little naughty. I'm glad he's not a terrier because he makes life merrier. He's better than a setter because he's such a great go-getter. He's smarter than a poodle. He knows how to use his noodle. I'm my wonderful chihuahua.
Now you can enjoy both Heinz lotion in bottles and Heinz hand cream in jars. Those smart red and white jars contain the fluffiest, creamiest hand cream Heinz could make. Like the famous Heinz lotion, the new Heinz hand cream is quick softening for chapped hands. It comes in two sizes, 10 cents and 39 cents a jar.
Thanks, Truman. Well, Gracie, say good night.
No, wait. First, I want to thank Bill Coram for his lovely wire endorsing my campaign.
Well, good. Now say good night.
Well, good night. I'll see you in the White House.
Say good night.
Next Wednesday at this same time, over these same stations, George and Gracie and all the rest of us will be back again. Don't forget. And don't forget, for honeymoon hands, it's Heinz Honey and Almond Cream. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Thank you.